statement, start with Zach.
All right. Okay, good win Saturday, hard-fought game against a good football team. Was really proud of the way we overcame sort of the adversities of the game, so to speak. Offense, turned it over 3 times in the first half, and defense responded every time. And then the offense throughout the game responded to Maryland scores. Like to finish the game a hair better. Thought we really could have made a statement at the end, but it's a good win. Northwestern, a very tough challenge. This will be the best defensive team we've played. Really extremely well coached, in the right places. They know what they're doing. Make you earn your points. They're not going to lose the game. You're going to have to win it. Offensively, struggling a little bit to get their rhythm going. Quarterback position's been a little inconsistent for them, but have some dynamic guys. Kickoff return guy, 96-yarder against Washington, plays some running back too. So looking forward to having a good week in preparation for this, next game.
You talked Saturday and then again today about overcoming adversity. In your experience, how does that manifest itself when a team maybe does have to grapple with some of those difficult moments for the first time and see itself come through? Defense pulls the offense up, offense pulls the defense up. When you come out the other side of it, What does it look like? How do you see it?
Well, to me, that's part of coaching is you're sending those messages in spring football practice, fall training camp. How are we going to respond when this happens, that happens? It's the way we play the game, never too high, never too low. So, you're not emotional about the circumstances of the football game. You're focused, on the here and now and what's your job and keeping your poise and composure. And, when you get 11 guys doing their job consistently, that can happen.
Going into the season, you kind of talked about some of the things that you thought would be strengths, wide receiver, running back, defensive line. But is there anything that you've kind of seen through the first 5 weeks that maybe has surprised you in terms of a position or even a player, is that something that maybe you didn't anticipate before the season?
I mean, I don't really look at it like that. To me, all the areas have to improve because you do get better or you get worse. I think we've played fairly consistently for the most part in all 3 phases, but definite improvements that can be made. And, with every success comes belief. And this is a team that's a little bit on a mission. And Northwestern's the next one up.
Curt, in talking to the players over the course of the season, it's pretty clear that they embody the message that you want them to embody in terms of buy-in and in terms of what your kind of vision for the program is. When you're recruiting players and once you have them too, how do you kind of build that? How do you kind of see that kind of vision of buy-in? How do you try to recruit that? How do you try to build it once they actually?
Well, it's all about the people you hire and recruit. So in recruiting, talent's important, but character is equally important. So and I sit down with all of them in my office, and because you want people that can kind of buy into the team concept, understand commitment and discipline, hard work, that are moldable, and not necessarily totally self-centered type people. So it's all about people.
Jack, exactly.
Yeah, Curt, the way the defensive line was able to get some pressure and I guess also the offensive line in the run game and protection, was that sort of reassuring for you to see from both lines against a Big Ten opponent, like compared to the first 3 non-conference games?
Well, I thought our defensive line needed to have a big win in this game because it's one of our strengths going up against one of their weaknesses, and I felt like they did. We put really good pressure on the quarterback, and I was glad to see that. So, and the offensive line, I think, has done a nice job game in, game out, and I think certainly you could see early in the second half the push we were getting in the run game.
Zach, be in front and Seth.
After Curtis's early interceptions on Saturday, you said that he responded exactly how you thought he would. What did he show on his Ohio tape that made you understand and realize that he would respond that way?
I think it was just more being around him since he's been with us in the spring. He doesn't really seem to get fazed by a whole lot of stuff, and he's on to the next play. So, those turnovers were avoidable. Sometimes you got to cut your losses, but I never had any kind, nor did anybody on the staff have any kind of doubt that he wouldn't bounce right back, which he did.
Step in front of Daniel.
Yeah, Omar Cooper has made a few big plays, obviously on Saturday. Just what's, obviously the wide receiver room is pretty crowded. What's allowing him to kind of stand out so much in that room?
Well, his big thing is day in, day out consistency because he has talent. I really like him a lot, and he's an explosive player with good ball skills that has just improved from spring to fall camp throughout the season, and that's why we're putting him in position to make the plays. And he made a couple big ones on Saturday, a couple nice throws, contested catches. So, like him a lot.
Daniel on your left and Ken.
Yeah, your resume is what it is as far as winning. Is there a shared trait you kind of look back on and say, like, all of the teams that we've had that are good have this trait?
Well, yeah. I mean, you got a blueprint and a plan, and you're creating a culture and an identity and a team mindset. And we want to be a tough, physical, relentless competitor. That plays really hard, one play at a time, smart, disciplined, and poised. Never too high, never too low. And that's how all the teams have played, and that's how we're trying to get this team to play.
Ken up top and Joe.
Your offensive and defensive lines on both sides of the ball have done a really good job of controlling that line of scrimmage. It's been a big part of your success. How do you get them to continue to keep that up and build on that as the weeks move on?
I mean, it's all, to me, the same. Today's got to be a great day of preparation, mental and physical preparation for the opponent coming up. And, you stack good days. And hope you can keep your people healthy, right? Because that's a big part of it, too. We're deeper in some areas than others. And you keep improving.
Joe on your right and Liz.
You've mentioned the margin of error once the season starts. What part of this team have you seen from fall camp that's taken the biggest strides in shortening that margin?
I think just in our mindset and how we approach the game, and some of the questions were directed to overcoming adversity or the highs and lows of the game, is this team has sort of absorbed that message and tried to apply it where they're not overly affected by success or failure.
Liz and then Omi.
With Miles Price, how did he get on your radar initially, and then what have you kind of thought of his season, from special teams and receiver?
Yeah, he's a really good player. He's a great teammate, too, has a lot of positive energy. Derek Owings knew him from his time at Texas Tech. Derek had been at Texas Tech. And, we liked what we saw on his tape and in our conversations with him. I think he's done a tremendous job.
When you got the job, did you kind of seek out those connections for transfers, or do those guys offer them, or say this is a guy that might be standout?
Well, I mean, the guys are in the portal. You evaluate the tape, and I think Derek came to me. This is a guy we ought to look at real hard. He's a great teammate. He's great for the locker room, which he is. Yeah.
Omi on your right and Jim.
Hi, Coach. We talked about the offensive line a number of times. I was just wondering, specifically, with Coach Bosad's approach, what do you kind of like about his approach developing that group, and how have they kind of, owned his teaching the last few weeks?
Yeah. Well, Bob's a really good football coach. He's a fundamentalist. He's tough. He's hard-nosed. His guys embody that, kind of a blue-collar work ethic. And, he makes them tough and physical, and he coaches them that way every single day. So, and I see it show up on Saturday.
Jim on your left and Daniel.
Curt, on Saturday, you guys had 3 turnovers in the first half, which was unaccustomary for this team, but the defense responded time after time. What does that do for this defense going forward, and what does that show you going forward for them?
Well, yeah, I was really pleased to see that, right? It gave us an opportunity to be successful. And I'm not surprised by it because I think we have a good defense, a very capable defense. So I wish we didn't turn the ball over like we did. But sometimes, you're going to have things throughout the season. And it was great to see them do that. And again, I just think every win builds team confidence.
Yeah, with Elijah, obviously you had him last year. I think he had 7 for 128 last week. Just what makes him who he is, in your opinion?
He loves ball. He's very competitive. He's got good talent. He's got great ball skills. He's really good at contested catches. And, he's always up. He's got a great personality, and, he's eager to practice, eager to play, and loves ball.
Were you aware of the Waffle House name that he has?
I heard that he had created that name. I can't attest to the validity of Waffle House always being open. But even when he's not, he'll find a way to come down with the ball.
Coach, my name's Rich. I'm with Channel 13, NBC out of Indianapolis. I'm here because this team is now attracting attention. I did sports for 20-some years, but now I'm a news reporter, and this is becoming a news story, what this team is doing. Sorry for the long question. I don't like long questions. I'll get to my point. Are you surprised at all by what this team has done? What should be your team's reaction to their success so far? What should be the fan and student reaction to what you guys have accomplished so far?
I'm not surprised. I pretty much told everybody when I got hired that this is what was possible, and I felt strongly about that after we brought the 22 transfers in December and added a few more at the end of spring ball, and saw the culture come together the way it did. But we had to put it on the field. So I knew it was possible because, I'd kind of been a part of something like this before. And I think people are getting excited, which is a natural part of that process too. When you win, right, the stadium fills up more, it gets louder, and the team understands how fragile success can be and how important preparation is on a daily basis. And I'm confident we'll handle today and this week the way we need to.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys coming out and covering Penn State football. I mean that. I don't just say that. I do mean that. We appreciate it. I did want to follow back up with you guys on Cam Wallace. It'll be a long-term injury, so he will be out. I kind of want to talk about this process a little bit. I try to be very, very respectful of the student athletes, and specifically their health. And sometimes you guys ask me, to be honest with you, I almost didn't have the answer today. It was going to have to wait till Tuesday because sometimes, as you can imagine, if it's a long-term injury and they're going to be out, it's a significant injury. And I don't want my first conversation to be, can I talk to the media? I'd like to kind of, support the kid, for at least 24 to 48 hours and sometimes 72 hours. I don't want my first conversation to be about answering media's questions. So I get that you guys need the information and you want the information, but that's why. Does that make sense? That's why I'm not answering it right away. Is I want to be respectful of the kid. I want to have a conversation with the kid, but I also don't want that to be the first conversation I have with the kid is about talking to the media. So does that make sense, everybody? So that answers that question for you guys. We expect to have DeLuca, Wormley, and Kimber back. I don't have a whole lot more information than that right now. Obviously, the game was Saturday. Sunday is a jog through. Monday's the off day. So we expect those guys back, but I don't have that information for you right now either. You're talking about the game. Just kind of recapping some things. we won most of the critical stats, the turnover battle, the explosive play battle, the third down battle, the sack battle, the drive start battle. So we were able to, win those. Penalties, after the game, I actually thought we had won that statistic because we had less penalties, but we had more penalty yards. So we really did not. And then I think you guys saw we started to announce the players of the game, so you guys have already seen that. One of the things that I talked to the team about is the importance of us taking a significant step this week and not having to be one of those teams that you see all over the country that have to have a setback first before they make a wake-up call and take a significant step. So we need to do that this week. Very, very important for us. And obviously getting into UCLA. One of the things that was interesting that I was unaware of when you kind of first start kind of doing your homework on this opponent is in our last 5 matchups against UCLA, we're 1-4, which I did not expect that. Coach Foster obviously, got a lot of history at UCLA. Although he's a first-year head coach, he's got a ton of history there, obviously. A team that is still kind of trying to find their way. Offensively, defensively, and special teams, you see them do some really nice things at times. Played really, really well against Hawaii, did some things against Indiana, LSU, and Oregon that were impressive at times. But obviously, it is going to be a challenge for us with them coming into our place. Also them dealing with travel, just like we're going to be dealing with in the future. That will factor in as well. I've known Eric Bieniemy professionally for a long time. As the offensive coordinator, he's got as good of a resume as there is. 23 years of experience, first year as the offensive coordinator at UCLA. They do a ton of really good things, creative. You're going to see 11 personnel, you're going to see 12 personnel, you're going to see 21 personnel, 22 personnel, all of it. Very pro style in kind of how they operate. The quarterback, who is a Washington transfer, we've been impressed with him, Ethan Garbers. The running back is another big back, 220 pounds, 6'2", number 25, TJ Harden. We've been impressed with him. And then wide receiver transfer from Notre Dame, number 1, Rico Flores. All 3 of those guys have flashed on tape up to this point. And then their defense and defensive coordinator, Ikaiko Malloy. I've also known Ikaiko for a decent amount of time. 24 years of doing this. Their defensive coordinator last year left, Penn State grad, and went to USC, who we know well. And Ikaika was promoted from within. I think in a large part, not only because of his background and his experience, but also because they wanted to keep the system similar, and they'd had a ton of success. Guys that we've been impressed with is number 49, Carson Swessinger. Number 7, KJ Wallace, is a Georgia Tech transfer. Linebacker number 20, Kane Medrano. And then defensive tackle number 93, who's a USC transfer, Jay Toia. Defensive end number 44, Devin Apu, as a Notre Dame transfer, and we've been impressed with him as well. So they are a good-looking team physically on the hoof. And then on special teams, Cody Whitfield is their special teams coordinator. His first year in this role, we have been impressed with their kicker, Mateen Bagoni. He's made 8 of 9 field goals with a long of 54. So obviously, they got tremendous range in that area. And then just to kind of give you guys some updates, red, yellow, green, nothing has really changed at this point. Luke Reynolds is a go as a green. Cooper Cousins is a go as a green. And Dewan Lane, Dele Lane is a go as a green. And the rest of those guys are kind of transitioning from yellow to green, possibly depending on how the season goes. So open up the questions.
Let's go to Rich Garcella and then Mike Gross.
Good afternoon. James, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, but you're not showing up on the screen for some reason. You're breaking up a little bit.
Okay. Before I ask a question, you missed the first 2 minutes of your audio.
Yeah,
Talking about
You're
breaking up.
Rich, I'll try going back to you in a second. Let's go to Mike Gross.
James, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Boy, that sounds weird, doesn't it? Talking about the officials on Saturday night, you said, I just want to feel like it's being called both ways, which that's a little bit beyond, I disagree with his call or whatever. So has there been any communication with the conference?
Wait. Say this again. Say your question and your statement you made.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I heard you. I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're.
Post game Saturday night, you said, I just want to feel like it's being called both ways, which it seems to go beyond just saying, well, I disagree with his call or so forth. So has there been any communication with the conference about the officiating? And if there hasn't, do you think there should be?
Yeah, I don't know if I would characterize it the way you just characterized it. I wouldn't connect the dots the way you just did. There's always communication with the conference. We turn in the plays that we disagree with. They respond back to us. We turn in plays before our next game, things that we're seeing on film that we're concerned with. So there's constant communication. We got to do a better job of being more disciplined and handle the things that we need to handle. First of all, priority number one is us. It's been that way my whole career, and specifically here at Penn State. So I want to be very, very clear on that. But yeah, the way you're characterizing the statement I made, I wouldn't characterize it that way.
Let's try Rich again.
James, can you hear me now?
Yeah, Rich, I apologize. I think it was on us because the system was kind of wacky for Mike as well. So sorry about that.
That's okay. Before I ask my question, can you go over what you said before you started talking about UCLA? Because we didn't hear it.
Yeah, so obviously our system is a mess. What didn't you hear? Oh, okay. So the injury stuff that I talked about, was that what you didn't hear, Rich?
I didn't hear anything yet.
Okay, sorry, Rich. So Cam Wallace is out. He's got a long-term injury. And what I was talking about with the people in the room is I want you guys to kind of understand that process a little bit. I always want to be respectful of the young men and their injury and make sure that them and their family are comfortable with me talking about that. But the other thing is, because typically it's the more significant injuries, right? I don't really want my first conversation with the kid to be, hey, can I talk to the media? I'd like to, show him and demonstrate that my concern is for him and make sure he's okay. Give it a day or two before I have a conversation about addressing the media. So sometimes you guys ask, and I get that you have to ask, but that's why I'm waiting, is I don't want my first conversation to be about, addressing and answering your guys' questions. So that's what I was talking about. And then I think I said DeLuca, Wormley, and Kimber were anticipating those guys being back. But it's hard for me to say on a Monday press conference when today's the off day and yesterday was a walkthrough. You still got to kind of see them on Tuesday and Wednesday, but we're anticipating those guys being back.
Okay. How would you say the offensive line has played?
You broke up again.
How would you say your offensive line played to this point?
Just so you know, talking slower doesn't help with the breaking up. Yeah. It's like people say, I don't understand English, so you talk louder or slower. So I think, again, I think all things considered, right? The fact that we had 3 guys that are playing in the NFL right now off of last year's team, I think very well. And I think that's a credit to Coach Troutwine and Frank Leonard and Bill Quaisert. I think those guys have done a real good job, as well as the players. I think Nick Dawkins is a big storyline there as well. A guy that's been kind of waiting for his opportunity and his time. And, we had high expectations for him, and I actually think he's probably playing better than we anticipated. Not only physically, but also mentally in terms of calls and leadership. He's been really good. So I think, you look last week. I got a ton of respect for Illinois and Brett Bielema, what he's been able to do kind of throughout his career, and it's been built based on fronts, front 7 on defense and O-line and tight ends and running game. That running back, I don't know if you guys got a chance to see him close up. I mean, he was a specimen, like 250 pounds. And I thought we played very well up front against a team that is built to win games in the Big Ten on their fronts. It's one thing, like our defense, it's one thing to hold a team to, whatever it was, 60 yards or whatever it was.
39.
Yeah.
For the 5 from the.
No, rushing. How many yards did they have rushing?
36.
Yeah, 36 yards rushing. It's one thing to hold a team for 36 yards rushing. It's another thing to do it against a team that's committed to running the ball. And same thing with their front 7. They were committed to not giving up explosive plays, so they played more cover 3 and less man than we expected. And with that cover 3, it allows you to get another safety in the box. So they were committed to stopping the run and not giving up explosive plays. That was the game plan from my perspective. And we were able to run the ball and do it in a very physical way. Not only the O-line, to answer your question, but also the running backs. There was some punishing runs that Nick Singleton and Katron Allen and Tyler Warren as well. There were some physical runs. So I've been pleased with that group.
Let's go to Mark Wogenrich and then Frank Bodani.
Hey, Mark.
Hi, James. How has Katron Allen specifically progressed as a player and person in your program since his freshman year?
Yeah, I'm really proud of Katron in so many different ways. And to be honest with you, Katron, as always, really just kind of maybe some bad luck, but historically with his time here, he's always had some lingering injury in the offseason that I think is hurt some of his development. He's one of the more natural football players that we got. Was really that way when he showed up on campus. And don't get me wrong, he's worked very hard at his development, but he's just missed a lot of time in the offseason. So, to see him playing the way he's playing right now is awesome. And then also to see him and Nick, they're both fairly quiet guys, very different kind of personalities, but both quiet. And to show them, showing emotion and having fun and being supportive of each other as well as the O-line. I thought that play, that Katron scored on, and, he does the whole deal where he's kicking down the door, and the whole offense did that with him. I thought that was a very telling of how connected our offense is and how connected our team is. But I'm proud of him. He's doing really, really well in school. I was at IMG a few weeks ago bragging on him to everybody on campus, just how well he's doing. He's doing really well in school. He's a great teammate. He's beloved by his teammates. He's playing really well, very, very productive. I'm proud of him. He's really growing up. And I think we've challenged him there as well, in terms of his leadership, how communicative he is. He's really growing in all areas, and I'm very proud of him. And I was back there at IMG telling everybody on that campus how proud they should be of him too.
Last question from Zoom, Frank Bodani.
Hi, James.
Hey, Frank.
Good afternoon, Fred. Could you please evaluate your punt return situation and your production there so far? And who is Caden's maybe toughest top challenger there at this point?
Yeah, so Caden suffered a injury during training camp. That's why you guys see he hasn't been playing much wide receiver, and we had anticipated him having a pretty big role for us on offense. So he had an injury, and early on we weren't sure if he was going to be able to go. And then he got cleared, and it was him getting confident, back to being out there, and really kind of the plan for the first couple games was to just have him catch the ball, because we had a ton of confidence that he would catch the ball, and predominantly fair catch the ball. While he was injured, we had a ton of different guys back there to catch the ball, decision making, when to fair catch it, when not to, backed up punt, when you're going to let it go in the end zone, when you're going to catch it, being able to advance it. Some really good athletes, but that's a unique job, and that's a unique skill set. I think you also saw we used Jake Spencer. He was another guy that's caught punts in college games before. But obviously we put him in on that one, and the ball got to the ground. So, that obviously created some challenges for us. So we've had a bunch of competitions for somebody else while Caden was getting healthy. And no one really took the job. So we were still kind of at a point where having Caden, for the most part, catch and fair catch. Zion Tracy's a guy that we think is close. As you guys know, he's got a background from high school as not only a returner but also a wide receiver. And we were hoping that he would be the guy during that time, and it just hadn't happened during practice. But right now, Zion's doing some really good things on defense and really doing some good things on special teams and gaining a ton of confidence. So, we'll see how that goes this week. But that's why you're seeing what you're seeing. Caden had an injury during training camp that limited what he could do as a receiver as well as a return man.
Go to questions in the room. We'll start with Mark.
How are you today, James?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Kobe told us that Dan Connor is now the guy in his ear in the helmet communication. What makes Dan the right guy for that? And can you just take us through what you see his kind of trajectory as a coach is?
Yeah, I think Dan's got a very, very bright future. Dan's a unique guy. He really is. He don't say a whole lot, but when he speaks, everybody listens. He's got great perspective on college football. He's got great perspective on the state of Pennsylvania. He's got great perspective on the NFL and what it takes to be successful at that level. And obviously, he's got unique Penn State experience. So he's been a really good hire and extremely valuable. And you're also talking about a guy who's been a defense coordinator in college before, and I think there's value in that. But I think the headset, as you guys have heard me talk about, that's taken some time to kind of work through the kinks and what's best for Penn State. So, the last two games, Tom has gone up into the booth, and that's been a positive. But on top of that, in terms of, like we talked about, the best place to call a game and that role and that job description, that was just another thing that Tom didn't want to necessarily manage. So, Dan was an option to talk to the linebackers. He dealt with it in the NFL, what he liked in terms of communication in the NFL. What you find is sometimes coaches can give you too much information. So tell them just what they need to hear. The defensive call, maybe a few more things, but not a whole lot more than that. That's what our linebackers wanted. That's what Dan was comfortable doing. And Tom, it just allows him to just call the game and not have to worry about also communicating with the linebacker on the field as well. So we've done that the last 2 weeks. I think that's been good for us. I think that's been good for our defense. I think it's been good for Kobe. I think it's been good for Dan and Tom. And as we've been kind of working through, this technology piece, we've had some of that on offense that we've had to work through, and some of that on defense. But I think we're getting to a good spot now. And what's the best way for Penn State to do it? I think it's going to be different at every school and every place based on the personalities and the team.
Let's go to Tyler.
Work in progress. Got to get better. Got to continue to strive to get better. Starts with me and how I organize practice and things we can do to help them. And we'll continue to do that to get better. But Orgy did some really good things and improved, went through some progressions, which was good to see. Got to continue improving in that aspect. And then, we got to get open for them too. And we got to protect. So it's a whole part thing. It's a team thing.
Stay on the left with Ryan.
So have you altered your practice plans at all from the start of the year till now?
I think we've always done that. We've always had kinks, adjustments, and things depending on the team, from team to team. Every team's different. So there's been a couple of things we've done as a team, talking to the leadership council, to our captains, of what we've done. So, but been good. Made adjustment before USC, and feel like it's helped us, and we're going to continue to do that.
On the right here, Reiner.
Part of this team's success the last couple of years was the fact that it was a really good second half team. What's the difference this year from what you've been able to diagnose?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest piece is we haven't finished the way we wanted to, and it's not a speech, it's not something in the locker room. We just have to execute at a higher level for us, and that's what we got to do. So we'll continue to harp on that and stress on that.
On the left, Alejandro.
With Alex, would you like to see him more directly involved in the running game? I know JJ health was an issue, but with him, would you like to call more for him?
Yeah, I mean, JJ wasn't health. It was just didn't want to run him. When you have a quarterback, just because you can have a running quarterback doesn't mean you want to get him hit. So there'll be some things we'll do to adjust, but we'll talk about that as a staff.
On the left, Chris.
What makes a good road team?
Yeah, you got to pack your defense first. Obviously, your run game, and you got to be sound and be disciplined in everything you do. Obviously, the first time that we're on the road, noise, it's going to be a great environment. I think our players are excited to get on the road. It eliminates distractions, eliminates all the outside stuff, and you're kind of in your cocoon with your group. And I've seen a lot of guys come by the office, tell them, yeah, I'm ready. We're ready to get on the road. I'm ready to take the show on the road. So I think packing your defense, having a good run game, and being balanced is going to be the main thing.
In Washington, they got a lot of yards, so that's still a good football team.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're a really good football team. Obviously, it starts with the quarterback on offense. He does a really good job distributing the ball. Don't think he's thrown a pick. And they've got a lot of yards, and the running back's really good too. Sound running back, can make you miss, can run over you. And on defense, sound defense, that they're going to challenge you. You're going to play a lot of man coverage, a lot of cover one. So I expect a heavy box. So we got to do some good things on the outsides to go win.
On the left, Anthony.
Kind of piggybacking off the previous question. I mean, it seems like the first road trip of the year, the last few years, was kind of where your team found that next gear.
Mm-hmm.
What do those week of practices look like leading up to that?
Just like this one's going to look like. The boys they've been in this morning, they were in yesterday, so I expect a really good week of practice.
On the right here, Austin.
So what are the challenges and the advantages of taking over a team that just won a national championship? Does it make things easier? Does it make things more difficult in some ways? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, blessed to be at this great place, so I think there's a high expectations regardless if we won the national championship or not. When you're at Michigan, you want to win every game. And when you're at Michigan, you want to represent this place in a fashion like none other. So for me, regardless if we won it or not, and obviously happy we did, there's a standard that I want to keep, that I want us to keep, on and off the field. So the challenges, don't really see them as challenges, see them as opportunities for us to go grasp and continue on a legacy that we need to.
On the left, John.
What has Hillman done in recent, just this fall in general?
You said Hillman?
Yeah.
Yep.
To put himself in position for a higher level.
I mean, pound for pound off the field, one of the most athletic players, was a high school quarterback. Really just, it started really in the summertime and in fall camp. He's matched his athleticism with his potential and really learned the playbook, learned those things to put himself in position to be really good. He has prototypical size as a safety. He's got great speed. He's got great length. He just knows football. And, I said something to the staff at training camp, like, this dude is always around the football. Even if he was wrong, he was around the football, and he figured out where the football is. So he's just continued to get better and better and better and earn more reps. And, at first it was later in the game, and now it's first quarter, not mop-up time. So he's going to have a big role as we go through.
On the right here, Aaron.
With regards to Alex, how do you weigh some of the baby steps he took throwing the ball? He did complete a few deep, 10-yard passes with the interception he threw.
Yeah, I mean, the interception, if it's a little to the right, it's not a pick. And Colston will tell you he's got to help him, but we also probably need to progress on, and we have Donovan down the sideline. So there's those things it's football. That's going to happen. But he made some steps in the right direction. Progressing all the way to a backside dig was huge, which we haven't done here in a long time. And so it was good for him to do that and make a nice access throw to the field to Kendrick, and do some things around the pocket. And so he's making the steps needed, and we'll continue to push him.
And then on the trip to Washington, does anything change in practice this week with regards to the long travel, the time change?
No, just our Friday schedule. We'll leave earlier and make sure we get there in time so the guys are rested.
On the right, Tony.
Yeah, Troy, just wondering if you had any update on Miles, Will, Josiah.
Yeah, they're all working through something. Miles working through something, came out the game. Probably could have went back in, but held them out. And Josiah and Will look like they'll be in good shape for this week.
Samaj as well.
Yeah, same. Yep.
On the left, Clayton.
What are the challenges when a team goes up tempo like Minnesota did, and then what are the keys to, I guess, combating that?
Yeah, I think one, getting the call, which I think we did, but we got to get a line and get set fast. Those are the biggest thing. Getting lined up. You talk to defense coordinators around the country. If you get lined up, you got a chance. So we just got to get lined up and get our cleats in the ground, and that'll help us with all those things.
And then the subbing, sometimes you guys start the backup defensive line and then bring the other guys in. Anything that you could change there, I guess?
No, I mean, you just want to give those guys a breather, and those guys are giving, Ike and Trey Pierce and Eno. And I mean, TJ Guy was a starter this game, but played really well. And Dom Nichols had some snaps. So Cam Brant's played really well. So those guys are really giving us quality reps to keep the other guys fresh.
Staying on the left, Ryan.
How different is starting this Washington team compared to last year? Obviously, a bunch of new faces and a new coach there as well.
Yeah, I mean, every team's different, but yeah, they are different. Obviously, it starts with the quarterback. Michael Penix was, as the elite, he's a first-round draft pick quarterback, so it's different. But they're still a good football team. They still can beat you through the air and on the ground and beat you with sound defense. So, especially going their place, it's going to be a challenge for us, and we're excited to go take it on.
How would you describe Judd Fish as a coach?
Yeah, really good coach. I don't know him personally as much. I know he's been here, but he's a West Coast guy, very intelligent coach, very good offensive mind. So we got to do a great job with our game plan.
Isaiah.
Yeah, after we saw a lot more creativity, I feel in some of the run play calling. But after Fresno State, I remember you saying it seems like 10 guys are doing their job, but one guy doesn't. Do you kind of see that right now with some of these plays that are unfolding, and how do you kind of combat that?
Yeah, I mean, we got to, for us as a group, as a unit, whether it's offense, whether it's defense, we got to play 11 as one. We can't have the one guy be wrong and let it be. On defense you can do that because one guy can make a play. On offense you can't. So we got to continue to not simplify, but make everything collective so that those guys can get a hold on what we're doing and be really good at it. And we're definitely taking steps in the forward to do that.
To some degree, with now that Alex is going into his third start, is it almost like it's week 3 since kind of the offense, the complexion of it's different?
Yeah, I mean, I think whenever, the best thing for guys is experience, especially at the quarterback spot. So those guys get experience, they get better. They take steps forward. So look forward for him to take a step forward this week.
On the right, Dennis.
You talked about some of those guys' availability. Is Paige, I didn't hear if you mentioned that. Is he good to go?
Yeah, he'll be good. I think it's just working through something, and he'll be in good shape to go.
You know, the interception, that was a big point in the game. You mentioned if it's executed, it could go for a touchdown. Things are looking pretty good. But goes into the decision, whether you make a little tweak there in the passing game or whether you need to make a lot of different changes in your concepts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a wholesale, full change on concepts. I think doing a good job of scheming things and getting people open in different various ranges. So we got to continue to do that with everybody, and we got to make the right reads.
Back right, Andrew.
Does the fact that it is a national championship rematch register with you?
Not at all. No, it's the next game, and I know we played them last year in the national championship, but it's two different teams. So we just got to go win this game. That's it.
Reiner.
As a coach, when you do get the result that you want, but it doesn't maybe go the way that you want, I mean, how do you balance that? I mean, and what are the film review sessions?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, I'll tell the team today, joy, happy to win, but not satisfied. Not satisfied with how we won and the things we can do. And you're going to nitpick every little piece. But I just got a chance to talk to Coach Jay Harbaugh, who's here visiting because they play Seattle. They play Detroit tonight. So, and just talking about winning. Winning is huge in college football. It's hard to win. So when you win, you should have some joy about winning, but it doesn't mean you can be satisfied about it. So, yeah, I'm happy we won. I'm happy the players got to win. Happy the team got to win. But, obviously not satisfied for how we did it. But, yeah, happy we got the win.
We've got about 4 more in the queue. We'll keep going here with on the left, Chris.
You talked about the receivers needing to get open. Is it routes? Is it getting off the line? Is it what is it specifically that you want to see better?
Yeah, I think there's 2 pieces. There's route detail. So in every little route, there's a depth. There's a release that you got to take. So we got to do a better job in that. But also, as a collective, we got to make sure we put all those guys in a position to run the best routes that they run. And that'll help them, and I think we're going to be doing that this week.
On the right, Angelique.
Sherrone, I was just wondering, how much are you utilizing the iPads on the sideline, and how helpful are they?
Yeah, we are using them. We're using them as soon as the offense comes off, they get them. As soon as the defense comes off, they get them. I'll peek at it more at halftime, and because I'm trying to look at both sides. So it's more so the coordinators and the players looking at them. But, yeah, they're definitely looking at them, and I think they are helping.
I was also curious about Khalil and his vision. Is that something that's innate, or can you coach vision?
I mean, I've been blessed to be around some good running backs, and his vision's really good. I can't tell you for sure how you can do individual drills to coach different reactions to different things, but I think pure vision of what you have is just God-given. And he has it, and he has an innate ability to will himself into yards. We were talking about it. I mean, there was something blocked for 1, and he got 4. Something, there's a guy in the backfield, he makes a miss, and he gets first down. He runs over a safety in the hole. So, he's unbelievable, and glad he's on our team.
On the right here, Tony.
Keep talking about balance. It's one of the most important things for this offense. How realistic do you think you can get to a full balance, or is it at least creating the illusion of balance?
Yeah, I think we can get the balance, and we'll just continue to work at it.
Last question on the left there, Alejandro.
Speaking on Khalil, you leaned on him as your running back, but were more creative with Donovan Edwards.
Yeah.
The 2-back package. What did you like from what you saw from that? Where do you want that to grow?
Yeah, we'll continue to use it. I think obviously Donovan has a skill set that we're going to use, and I felt it just put some eye candy, put some things on the defense. Have to think about a lot of things with both those guys on the field. So definitely keep evolving that. And there's plays that we've ran in the past, plays that we've practiced that we've never used, and we'll start to pull those out as the season goes, starting this week.
All right, last question, Aaron.
One more on injuries. Your pregame availability before Saturday had several guys out. Are any of those guys out long term?
Long term.
Burrows, Mangum.
Yeah, McBurrows will be out. Mangum, he's working through something. I don't know if he could possibly come back.
Walker?
Yeah, he's working through, but he's not out long term now.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you, appreciate it.
here. I don't know. There's just a whole lot else to say. Everybody, obviously, from this weekend, it was tough, right? I mean, that was a tough one to swallow. And in a lot of ways, for the first time, we played complementary football, and I'm talking about the first half. And that's really what we've got to be able to kind of hone in on and find ways to continue to be able to do. Play complementary football, offense, defense, special teams. A big emphasis as we went out there on the road in this league. You got to play great on special teams. You got to say dominant special teams, and I thought we did a really good job in that phase of the game. You know, we ended up, giving one back to them, and is not the way you can do it on special teams. That's not dominant special teams, but for the most part and everything else, we're very, very solid there, and that kind of allows you to play that complementary football that we've got to be able to do. Like that, we're not gonna, sugarcoat anything here. Like if we don't play in all three phases of the game, it's going to be difficult for us as we continue to grow and build. And so there's not one in particular thing that you say you got to be able to do. You got to be able to do it in all three phases. And that's going to have to be our MO. That's going to have to be the focus for what it is that we do. And we keep talking about these winning habits. Well, the winning habits as a team is to be able to play complementary football, is to be able to play in all three phases. And all three phases have got to be able to contribute to winning. We're just not to the point right now where if we're not playing well defensively, well, it's okay because our offense is going to go out there and outscore them. If we're not playing well offensively, that's okay. Our defense will go out there and we'll shut them out. We're just not to that point. In my career, I've been fortunate to probably be at that point maybe 3 or 4 times in my career where there's an opportunity where you'd say, okay, we're not playing very well or not scoring offense. Okay, we're not going to give up any more than 3 points. And then vice versa, hey, we're not playing real well on defense. All right, we'll score 35, 38, 40, whatever we have to score. And so I've not been in a whole lot of those situations, but have been before. And where we are right now, we just know we've got to be able to play all three phases of the game. Got to play complementary football, and we've got to hone in on what the winning habits really look like and continue to enhance those.
Luke, through 2 performances so far, Braden's had really good plays and then some ones that obviously he wants back. Like, how do you get a little more consistency out of him? What are the steps he's got to take through practices here?
Not sure which plays you're referring to wanting back, but we all have plays we want back. It's obviously highlighted at that position, but I think he's done what we've asked him to do. We can all pinpoint. He'll be the first one probably to tell you the first series he went in there against Alabama was not, what he wanted. But I'd be honest with you, he's continued to grow. He's going to continue to grow. He's going to give us the opportunity, to be able to move the ball around. He's going to give us the opportunity to play at the pace we want to play at. He's going to give us the opportunity to get into the things we want to get into. And I think that, as we continue to grow, that's where we got to hang our hat offensively on. Not that we're going to say, okay, hey, it's his game and we're going to win and lose it with him. No, the whole idea is the guys around him, and that's what I reminded him as we started the game last week, right? In warm-ups, I just say, hey, just rely upon the people that are around you. This isn't all on you. Everybody, the quarterback is the cog of everything that you do, in particular offensively, but it's not just on his shoulders. And I think he is growing. I think he's done a good job. There's some more things, like you said, both, he would say that as well as I would say that there's other things out there that we can do a better job of, and we will.
Hey, Luke, Elijah Hills, I believe, played the most snaps he has so far, I think 50. Just where have you seen some of the most growth from him since the spring, and just how impactful has that been, especially without James?
He's done a great job. I mean, we're still early in the season, and I don't know that our expectation when he walks in the door here, the expectation was, hey, I hope you can play 20, 25 snaps a game. And from there we'll build. And, what he's done through the offseason, what he's done in the first 4 games, he's been impressive. And he's a guy that, as we keep looking at these winning habits, that I don't know what his habits were when he walks in the door, but I would say that each and every week, each and every month, he's continued to grow. And I mean that through the first 4 weeks of the season as well. And he's done a really good job. He's going to continue to have more opportunities. But he's a guy that, when it gets down to it, we're talking about the hunt or be hunted. He has a hunt mentality, and he didn't bat an eye when we played against Alabama. He didn't bat an eye this weekend when we played at USC, and that's an impressive thing. And it's just one of those guys. You walk in the door, he's coming from Albany. You don't know a lot about him. You've seen minimal to a little bit of film on him. You had a 10-minute meeting with him, and he's a part of your program. And he's done a really good job, and he'll continue to grow for us. And we need him to.
Just kind of a couple weeks ago, I know you kind of talked about Chez and just from the character standpoint of where you've seen him develop. I want to get your thoughts on him, just on how he's been running the ball and maybe where, if anywhere, you maybe want to see a little more.
It's such a tough position, and we had a little bit of a tough ride right now at the running back spot. Meaning we've got a bunch of guys, and it's probably one of the things that that I am going to kind of not say impress to the but put on the offense a little more to say, look, I don't know that you can play 4 and 5 running backs. We've got to focus in on, hey, who's going to be one, who's going to be the next guy, and then who's the spare. And I just don't. It doesn't give them an opportunity to get into rhythms. Chez being one of those guys, Tywee being another one. So we're going to have to figure it out. Nothing against Chez, nothing saying, hey, he's going to get 30 touches now. But what we need to find out is who can get hot and who with more opportunities are going to have a better chance for us. And that's what's really kind of difficult for Chez, for Tywee, and even for some of the young guys. So when we talk about continuing to develop, finding the winning habits, we got to find the winning combination too. And there's not one thing that you could say, well, this is going to give us the best opportunity. It's going to have to be the body of work, and we're going to have to, give some guys opportunities early in game, then have to ride with them a little bit more, I think. And that doesn't exactly answer the question on Chez or Tywee, but right now I just don't know that we're giving those guys enough opportunities to see if they can get hot, see if they can create some things, because I think to date, our longest run is maybe 25. I think Yak has the longest one, and the second longest one might be the one that Chez turned over, and then the third longest run is Tywee, probably on the touchdown this week. And there's bigger plays that need to be had in that at that position. We got to figure out if we're not giving them enough of those opportunities to get it. I can't tell you exactly who that'll be.
Luke, where do you think this program has taken the biggest steps forward since you got here? It can be on or off the field, and where do you feel like you need to grow the most?
That's a tough question that, as you're sitting in the midst of things, there's baby steps. I don't know that there's one giant leap, right? I mean, everybody's looking for that giant leap, and I've been in programs before where you see what that giant leap is, and I would say right now it's baby steps. I think that things that we've done inside the locker room have helped us and have created a different environment. And I think things that we've done on the field, little ways have created things that we need to continue to build upon. Are we still waiting for that giant leap? Yeah, maybe. It's not as obvious, it's not as evident because all you get to see is Saturdays. But I can tell you that there's a lot of baby steps that, that lead to the things that make greater changes. Kind of sounds like some of the players, right? You sit in there and you talk to the guys about how much they've worked and how much they've dedicated themselves and how much they've committed themselves, whether that's the off season, whether that's fall camp, that's going away for 13, 14 days. All those things don't guarantee you that on Saturday you're going to be the winner. All those things don't guarantee you that, you're going to get, the ball 30 times or you're going to, have 8, 10 sacks. A lot of times they're baby steps. A lot of times there's things that continue to grow. And so I can't tell you that there's one spot. I can tell you that the leadership I feel really confident in. It might not show as much to the guys that are outside the program, but there are baby steps that are continuing to be taken that are going to lead us to where we want to go.
Luke, one of the biggest moves you made in the offseason was hiring A.J. Blazek for the O-line coach. Through the first 4 weeks, it seems like the O-line might be one of your, might be the strongest group on the roster. What have you kind of seen in terms of the growth from that group and also how?
I think they're doing a good job. I think that they're very well coached. We don't have to sit around here and talk like that. It's the strength of what we know when we walked in the door here, right? And it's got to continue to be the strength of what it is that we do. There's still more out there for those guys. And I really do believe that, if you're going to be the strength, which, they are, and if you're going to be, the historic group that, is expected around here, we still got to ask for more. And I think they've done a really good job. I think they will continue to grow. And that's what, when you're talking about baby steps, you're talking about a leadership, you're talking about an attitude. That room is a big depiction of that. And I know that everybody doesn't get a chance to see that, but sitting in there even on Sunday with that group, listening to, them review the game a bit, it reminded me that, okay, these guys can take a little bit more. They can understand that, yes, they might be the cog and they might be the crux of our team and our program, but if you really look back at that second half, we need them guys to be better. And not trying to point a finger, but like they can handle it. And if we're going to continue to grow and have continued baby steps that eventually become into large leaps, it's going to start with that group. And so I feel confident that they will and they can. I love the way they're being coached and the things that they're doing. I just think we got to continue to grow there as well.
Vinny Anthony's kick return and his touchdown pass was probably were your two longest plays this year. But just can you speak about Vinny and where you may be seeing development? What kind of stands out to you about how he's come along?
I've kind of been waiting for it. You know, we've seen a lot in the offseason, and I don't just mean his play. I mean, he's a bigger, stronger, faster guy over the last year and a half. And, you know, you kept kind of waiting to see when those things were going to kind of pay off. And this weekend in particular, you saw it, right? I mean, obviously it was the fourth or fifth play on offense that, you know, he takes the distance and wins a one-on-one and then separates himself and finishes the play. And then obviously the kickoff return that he takes back to the, you know, the 20. He's a guy that we've, I think, pinpointed to say, okay, this is a guy we got to find more ways to get the ball to. You know, he's the kick returner. He was the punt returner to start the year off. We had to limit him a little bit on some of those things because we're like, okay, now how much can we do? You know, how much do we want to put him out there to do? As much as maybe, you know, you still want him offensively as opposed to just on the special teams. He's the gunner on punt as well. So there's a lot of those things that he's worked his way into, and we need to continue to see him do it. You know, I think this week was the first time where we've all had an opportunity to see him take one of those things to the house, and whether it's on offense or on special teams. But he's a guy that we're going to have to rely upon as well to continue to find ways to get the ball in his hand and give him opportunities to make some of those plays.
Luke, I don't know if you have experience with this in your career, but Purdue's changing offensive coordinators this week. Like, how much difficulty does that add, or like, how does it? Or can a team really change course that much in a 1 week time? Like, how do you view that?
We don't know what's going on, right? I mean, I try not to speculate. I try not to worry about anything in anybody else's program. Obviously, we're playing them, and we got to prepare to play them. And so there's some things you're trying to, you know, figure out. But who knows if it hasn't been like that for the last few weeks, right? I mean, there's a lot of things you have no idea of. It's just another one of those things. It's another, you know, obstacle in the way and things that you have to assume and prepare for. And I don't know that there's an exact way. You're trying to find out, well, who's calling it, I mean, like, they're probably never going to tell you. And to me, that's just you know, trying not to single out anybody in particular. So it's obviously a unique situation early in the year. I think it's a bad part a little bit of our game. But again, I'm not there to speculate. I'm not here to judge of any sorts. I'm just here to make sure our guys are prepared and, you know, in the best way we possibly can.
Luke, Vinny put one on the ground on a punt earlier this year. Tyrell put one on the ground on Saturday. Do you have to try somebody else back there?
There's a good possibility. You know, I don't know. There's not one off the top of my head. There's an opportunity. Maybe we'll put Will back there a little bit. It's not something Will has been probably extremely confident in. And I don't mean confident. I shouldn't say that. We haven't put him back there a lot. Obviously, from 2 years ago when he got hurt, returning punts was kind of one of those things. Okay, we'll just try to keep him out of that position. We've done so many other things with him. You know, I don't know that there's another, you know, great option. I think we've had Tretch back there a bit as well. We're just going to have to continue to get better at what we do. Vinny and Tyrell are the two guys that we do feel most confident in, and we're just going to have to do a better job.
Luke, you know, former players are obviously very passionate about this place because they spent a lot of time here. And if they're frustrated with results and voice that, is it easy for you to block that out because you're so insulated week to week, or do you feel like that's something you need to address or pay attention to as people might see it?
No, I don't. I mean, I do a very good job. I shouldn't say I do a very good job. I don't pay attention to a lot of things. Unfortunately, when you have children now that are of the age, they tend to, you know, if there is something out there, they let you know, which I got to do a better job at making sure they understand, like, yeah, I don't want to hear those things. But it's a part of the game. Right? I mean, it's all things that we have to be able to deal with. It doesn't bother me. I only worry that if it bothers our guys within our program and our team. But yeah, if people didn't have passion for what it is that we're doing, we wouldn't have sold out crowds. We wouldn't have an environment that, that we create here and a competitive advantage when guys come into our home because of the passion that, whether it's the fans or former players have. I mean, that's what makes programs great. So you got to be able to handle the ups and the downs. You got to be able to handle the positives and the negatives, whether you're a coach or you're a player. And, sometimes I think it's a little bit more difficult as a player. If I think back to myself as a player, I thought it was more difficult. As a coach, I think you better understand the landscape of what it is that we live in, and not allow those things to ruffle your feathers at all.
Look, kind of a two-parter here. Do you happen to know if Max Lofi is going to be out for a while, or because he wasn't on the chart, but then he looked like he warmed up and then couldn't go, and then kind of dovetailing with that, how do you think Austin Braun did going in?
So Max, something happened in pregame warm-up that he tweaked his back, and he came in from just warm-ups and couldn't go. It was a very tough, difficult situation. We had to make some adjustments on the fly, and to be honest, Austin Braun went in there and really did a very good job. He played well. He made some plays. Obviously, there's some things people can pinpoint and pick on and say we can do better. But I think for the situation and things like that, Austin went in and did a really good job. Obviously, he's played a lot of ball for us, so we have an expectation. But he also has played a lot of positions. And where Max was playing at that nickel and kind of had established himself, we've been using Austin a little bit more in the back end for things. So he hadn't taken nearly as many reps at the nickel position. And an hour before game time, we had to flip things, and he went in there and did a really good job.
Similar note, Aaron Witt, last I saw of him, he took a hard shot in his leg, and then he hobbled off the field. So, and I don't think he came back, and I didn't see how he looked. But how is he? And what's
not a great play. If you haven't watched it, it'll be probably on the video of teaching this weekend. Yeah, he took a shot to the knee. I don't know exactly where he is just of yet. He wasn't able to run around a whole lot on Sunday. Hopefully he'll be okay, and I think he's still questionable for where we are right now. It's only Monday, so that's a good thing. But it was a really kind of one of those ones like it's something we got to get out of the game, and I'm not going to dwell upon it. Hopefully that they'll be able to take care of it and address it and make sure that we're all on the same page as we coach and teach these guys on how to take on some of these blocks. But it's a part of making our game a little bit better and a little bit safer for everybody, as opposed to just quarterbacks and wide receivers. But hopefully he'll be okay.
Oh, and
respect, there's lots of coaches that are regarded as like the best coaches in college football. Not many could do what he's done. Okay. Speaking as a guy who won at Temple, and I mean, you go in at Rutgers before he got there, not many people had won there, and he won there at a high level, left and came back, and he's winning there again now at a high level. He's a great football coach, point blank. He's just a great football coach, great builder. He's elevated that entire university. I have the utmost respect for him. When he speaks, I listen. I just have a lot of respect for him.
You thought after the game, your initial impression was Gunner did pretty well. Did the tape kind of confirm that with the O-line and just how they got after it?
Yeah, I think so. I think Gunner played well. I mean, there's some things, he learns to continue to work his anchor. As he's getting people going speed to power on him, he continues to work on it. He'll get better. That's a really important thing this week. There's no better coached defensive front you'll see than the Rutgers D-line. And I think our guys know that from playing them 2 years ago, because what I like about Rutgers is you look at I have this big board in my office, and there's not a lot of transfers on there, right? There's a lot of homegrown talent and a lot of tough Northeast kids that play really hard. So Gunner will have to do what he did last week, continue to get better. I think it's a credit to the guys on our scout team. We have a lot of guys who've played a lot of football who play on our scout teams that give them a really good look.
Jaden made his debut on Saturday. Just how do you think he played just after everything he's been doing last week?
Yeah, Jaden went in kind of in like a nickel and dime role. It was, when this first happened, we never thought he'd be able to play at this point. Dr. Mathiasen, our team doctor, and the work he's done with the specialists. I mean, I honestly, we were hoping maybe for USC, the hard part about my job is I only get called in when it's when it's the heartbreaking conversations. I'm not the position coach. I'm not there for the the day-to-day good ones. I'm not always the fun guy, but I was there for that one with Javen and his father, and just like I was with Ramir last year when his season was over, and those things are heartbreaking. And so to see the joy on Javen's face to play was that was a moment that will stay with me for a while. And so, how did he play? Honestly, I'm not even sure that it necessarily even matters. To be quite honest, but he thought he played well. He'll play more this week. He hasn't practiced, hasn't been able to do a thing. It wasn't like, hey, he's coming back from an ankle. He's dealing with, the blood clots and all that stuff. So he's, hasn't done a thing really. And but he went out there, and luckily, as he said to me, I'm a ninth year senior, whatever he is. So he's got a lot of reps in the bank.
Hey, Coach, Tommy Hill's status for the week, Stephon Thompson, Mike Mazuka. Do you have a personnel update on just some of those guys that weren't with you last?
Yeah, Micah was suspended last game. He's reinstituted this week. That was kind of middle of the week that happened, so it wasn't something we were. I met with you guys. I wasn't anticipating that, to be quite honest with you. Stephon Thompson has a sprained foot, and he ran well today, so we're anticipating him practicing tomorrow. So I'll know more about that. And then Tommy went out like the NFL, like 2 hours before the game and worked out, and just didn't quite feel like he could go on it. Now he ran today and felt good, so I would anticipate Tommy having a chance to play this week. I think that'll be another probably, be quite honest, game time decision. It's all the plantar fascia is all pain threshold, and it's not like can you tough it out. I mean, I've seen guys miss a long time with it, so he's doing everything he can to play. So we'll see.
Is Michael ready to roll? Do you think he'd be back in the lineup?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't put him. I wouldn't start him. I mean, he was a backup before this happened, right? Like when he came out of the Colorado game, he was Toski was put ahead of him. So he's got. I love Micah. I'm working with him to make him the best he can be. You guys talk a lot about him, but he's a backup player for us.
Coach, this is not asking you to criticize the refs, but what is the process that you guys go to as a staff to maybe send in certain plays weekly? Do you do that type of thing, and what's the end result of that process?
Yeah, you send them in. You send in, hey, is this a question? Is that a question? Questions you have. They'll send you back whether they agree or disagree. There's like a weekly tape that they send you that has points of emphasis from the week before. So I'm saying from the whole league, so you can kind of hear what's being said to the officials, and then if it's something that rises to a higher level, right, maybe you get on the phone with somebody and say, hey, so for me, because I got a penalty, because I injected myself into the game, I made a call to figure out, what I did right or wrong. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like, hey, you send your plays in, you get them back, they tell you what they agree or disagree with, and you're trying to figure out, as much as anything, as the rules change, okay, can we do this? Can we not do this? Can we hit a, what used to be a great play is now a penalty sometimes, right? So can we do this? Can we not do that?
Alex Bullock had a couple key blocks, including on that Ja'Cory Barney touchdown. Just what did you think of the impact he brought as a perimeter blocker?
So Alex was one of the guys we talked about in the team meeting. We ran that play earlier in the game, and so they run with motion. So if you send a guy in jet motion, they chase him. And so last week, Oregon State had a ton of success handing the ball off. And really people, for 2 years, that's the kind of one of the things you try to do against Purdue, hand off jet sweeps, right? Well, they made the decision, and we actually practiced it in case they did it. They made the decision to, instead of running with it, to rock and roll the safeties, which is a little more complex, but it's better in terms of speed sweeps. So the first one, Alex is going to go block the man-to-man guy. The man-to-man guy doesn't come. He sees a safety. He tries to veer off. He goes and blocks him. That misses it. It's a 4-yard gain. Now they get a 15-yard penalty for throwing his legs or whatever. So I yelled at Alex on the sideline. He was about ready to fight me. They ran it again. Alex sees it and makes the block. Ja'Cory runs for a touchdown. You see Alex turns around. He does this passionate, I don't know if he was telling me to get lost or if he was just fired up. But it's those kinds of things that we really are trying to build off of, preparing through the event, seeing how people are playing you. What do we need to do differently this game based upon what they're doing? Again, we're in warm-ups, and number 4 goes from playing middle linebacker now to playing an edge player. Oh, shoot. Okay, how are we going to handle this? Now 31's now no longer the deep safety. Now he's down low. 32's a deep safety. So that's one of the hard things about playing a team that's struggling. You know, they've lost their last 2 games because they're probably going to make some fundamental changes. Alex is just becoming more and more and more the guy that, like, you know, the coaches or Dylan will say, hey, can I have Alex on this play? Because, you know, he's a guy who finds a way to get a job done, and he was excellent on special teams. You know, he was fantastic on. The shame of the special teams is like, you know, the field goals was so front and center that, like, we you know, it was a heck of a day for Brian Buschini. I mean, you know, 5 touchbacks, you know, in kind of hurricane-ish type conditions. I wasn't sure if he'd get the touchback. I think 4 or 5 touchbacks, right? An amazing tackle that lit the team up. 2 tackles on. He was able to field both those snaps, which were really bad snaps, get him down, then made both tackles on those plays. Pooch, the first one, should have been down at the 2, right? So he made an excellent pooch and then put one at the 10, one at the 4. So Buschini, I thought, was magnificent. And Bullock, another guy like that. I always try to talk to our team about the unsung heroes, the guys that no one's noticing. I thought those guys, you know, Alex was one of those guys.
You guys are +5 in turnovers. Is this kind of what you envisioned when you thought about where you could be if things went right and turned around in that area?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I probably didn't think we would be. I probably didn't prepare for. Oh, yes, let me say that. Yes, I thought we would. If we could just not turn the ball over, we'll have a chance. Games will be close. We'll have a chance to win the game at the end. I didn't probably prepare for us being as explosive as we are in terms of, like, we're really, like, even in the first half, you know, I showed our guys, it was, and forgive me for the numbers might be off, 32 plays for like 210 yards in the first half, 27 plays for 208 yards in the second half. So it really wasn't like we weren't explosive. So what you're seeing, I think, is you're seeing other people now slow the game down, run the ball, try to bleed our defense, try to keep us off the field. And so what you could see is you could see like a young quarterback going out there being like, hey, I'm going to be extra aggressive because I'm only getting, you know, we played 57 plays on offense. You know, I'm not getting a lot of plays. But what I like about Dylan is he's checking the ball down. He's getting completions. He's moving the ball. And, but yeah, I think that the turnover margin, you know, I think we've won it in every game except one we tied it, right? And even the game we lost, we won the turnover margin. So I'd still love to see us get way more. Like, you know, we have a couple sacks. Like, we have 5 sacks with no sack fumbles. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. So those are the things. And I say that because our guys in the meeting, they were like, you know, Ty Robinson barrels through, sacks the quarterback, and he's the first guy to say, I need to knock the ball out there. So there's a lot of places we have to improve.
Where are you exceeding your expectations in terms of creating explosive plays? What has your offense done better than maybe you thought it would?
I think we have the ability. I think we've had the ability to get the ball to a bunch of different people. Like, you can't sit there and key in on, hey, they really like to favor Nayor. Hey, they really like to favor this guy. I mean, really, you know, if you throw in the pass interferences, right? I mean, I think we had 7 20-yard plays, and that would probably have been like 10, 11, 12, right? So it's not like, hey, it's just this. I mean, we're able just to go out and throw kind of general tempo drop back, and we're holding up in protections. I mean, Emmett and Ramir were excellent picking up blitzes. So I think that's allowed us, you know, some catch and run type things. What I'd like to, you know, there's some things I'd like to see more of. Like, you know, we weren't great in the red zone in the first half. We were 0 for 2 in the red zone, and we were 2 for 2 in the second half, which is why the game changed, right? Third down was disappointing. But, you know, when you look at it, it was 4th and 1 and we false start, and it was 3rd and 1 and we false start. So just, as I told our guys, it's time for, you know, grown man football. Enough of that. I thought I heard him clap, or I thought I heard, like, enough of that. Like, come on now. So, if we could stay on the field a little bit more, you know, maybe get a few more turnovers on defense, I think we could really see some explosive things happen. But you're about to face some teams like Rutgers who, you know, they don't give up explosive plays. They make you earn it. You know, Coach Schiano doesn't give up explosive plays. You know, they're going to play quarters. They're going to make you earn it. You know, they will pressure you. And as much as we you know, we're kind of built to, like, we want you to pressure us. We get the ball out of our hand. You know, they can sit there. They play 4-3 quarters with rugged players, and they'll try to knock you back into the quarterback's lap. So it's a whole different animal that we're facing this week with the way they play.
That Washington gains 521 yards and scores only 18 points, kind of the template of, like, what their defense is good at, is preventing those big plays.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they're I just went through it with the team. I think they're in the top 2 or 3. Right? They convert third downs at 51%, right? So they stay on the field. They're 33 minutes in time possession. You gave me the stat, Keith. It was they're top 10. Let's just say top 10. They're top 10 in red zone defense, right? So, Washington had a bunch of yards, but they were 1 for 5 touchdowns in the red zone. So, we have to even the touchdown we scored, but we had to get it to 4th and inches to get it in. So, for us. Well, we're throwing the ball around decently. Can we get the tough yards? Can we get the 4th and 1? Can we get the 4th and 2? Can we get the 3rd and 1 without everything having to be a speed sweep? Can we line up and knock you back and go get that yard? And that's the state. As you look at the things that we're not doing well or what we need to improve upon, it's those hard, tough yards that I'm anxious to see.
Hey, Rutgers has got a known history of blocking kicks under Schiano. I think he's got 71 blocks in his time there. How do you guys address that this week, just the importance of that phase of this game after especially what we saw last week?
Yeah, and I'll just say this. Last week wasn't the field goal protection team. It was the snapper. I mean, if you're kicking a ball at 1-5, operation time, I mean, to me it's the snapper. If we practice so much on special teams, on field goal, on punt, all those things. If we have to start changing stuff now you have to. If there's a problem, you fix. But if we have to start changing things now, then we're panicked. I mean, we know what to do, and I mean this sincerely. We know what to do, and we have the guys who can do it. They got to go do it. That's the phase that we're in. If you guys have heard me talk about winning football to championship football, you can't be a different guy in practice than you are in the games, and. We're making those kicks in practice every day. And so I expect us to make them in the games. And we're making that snap in practice. So, I expect us to make them in the games. So, they're going to come after us. They should come after us, right? But, one thing we are doing, we went after the first punt. And if you go back to the last couple of games, the punters are getting the ball off against us in 1.1, 1.2, and the balls are going 35, 40 yards or going out of bounds. Our punt rush team hasn't made the big play that everyone goes wow with, but the field is being tilted in our favor. We're getting the ball at the 40-yard line, they're getting the ball at the 5. We're getting the ball at the 40. If anything, I'm coachable. I watch Coach Ferentz. I watch these guys, and I'm like, okay, how are they winning in these elements? And the elements haven't really showed up yet, but when they do, the wind was there on Saturday. But yeah, they're going to come after us. We're going we got good players. They have to play well, and that's really been my message to the team is you can't all of a sudden now change who you are. You got to be who you are. If you're fast, be fast. If you're tough, be tough, and do it against a really good Rutgers team.
Did Sierra do well to arrive midsummer and figure it out to get to where he is right now?
Yeah, he's smart. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're smart and you try, you have a chance. Some guys play football because they're talented. Some guys play football because they're football players. I don't know if that makes sense. You somewhere along the way, some people lift weights because they're lifters. Some people run because they're runners, right? Sierra's a football guy. He's a football player. So he shows up and you're not pulling teeth. We have some guys who are really talented, but you're trying to get them to be a football player and they want to be everything else, right? Sierra's a football guy. He's played a ton of football at a high level at USC. The moment's not too big for him. He likes to compete. He had to learn kind of our way of doing things, our way of practice and all that, but he's a really, really good person. And so when you do correct him on something hey, here's what we expect, he does it. And then, I think John Butler's done a really good job. And then, Melvin and Adam DeMichael and Tariq help him, and they do a good job of getting people reps. And then if you go back to that game, we had Mario Buford in there playing in crucial times. We rotated more guys. Jeremiah Charles got real reps. So we wanted to get more people in the game so we would be fresh in the fourth.
Dylan mentioned on the touchdown throw to Banks that he went from a double cadence to a silent count. Said there was noise and just a lot of different stuff going on that play. It was a third down. First road game. Is that he kind of talked about it nonchalantly, like he just did this. Is that kind of thing rare for a quarterback like him to do in that spot?
I think the thing that we've done with Dylan is we've said, everything in life happens for a reason. I had a chance to work with a guy, Ben McAdoo, at the end of my Carolina time. It didn't work out for us. But Ben had been with McCarthy and all those guys in the Green Bay and the way they train you in Green Bay. And they start the year off, hey, here's our 4 or 5 man beaters. Here's our 0 beaters. Here's our cadences. And then you get a guy like Aaron Rodgers, you train him that way, and then pretty soon he has all the answers to the test when he's out there. And so I think what we've done with Dylan is, I've said it from day one, I think Steve asked me the first week, like, we're just, however we want Dylan to play when he's a junior, we're just trying to coach him that way now. And the same thing with Danny Kalin. And the same, so, here's your cadences, here's your checks, here's your audibles, here's your opportunities, there might be different things on different weeks, but even the right before the half, they brought 0 and he checked to a wheel route to Ramir and just missed Ramir. But we're living with those things. Like, maybe we didn't want to do that. Maybe that was we could have just won them. But we have coached them up, and they've put the system in that's really, really, really high level stuff, because he can do high level stuff, and he works at it. He reps at it. Like, I'm in my office today. He stops in my office. He's talking about the things that they do and what, can I do this? Can I do that? So, I think he's rare, but I think the confidence the coaching staff has given to him to go do it, and then also I think that his preparation's like way, way, way over here.
You talked about the growing team. Where do the 5th and 6th year guys fit into allowing that to happen?
Yeah, well, I mean they're growing too, because they're in territory they haven't been in before, right? And so, they haven't been 4-1, right? They haven't. I don't know how many road games they've won, right? They haven't done those things, and so it's this humble confidence to stand your ground, right, and not, be confident in the things that you're confident about, but also be humble to say, hey, what do we need to improve upon? So, can you come in this week, and can you have the same edge to you as you had last week about what do we need to get better at, while at the same time being confident, knowing, hey, I'm a good player. I have the right to. I've worked hard. And so, a lot of those guys, I think they're all growing. I don't think it's age as much as it is just, hey, what does this take? What does this require? Like, you watch Purdue, and Purdue gives up, he gives up, I don't know how many yards he gave up to Notre Dame, but it was just a bad day, right? And then they give up, 300 some yards rushing to Oregon State. And I think Sam asked me, I was like, well, we don't really have a running quarterback, and they're not going to, your defensive head coach is not going to give up 200, 300 yards rushing 3 games in a row. He's just not going to do it, right? So they played man and left their guys on an island out there, and so we went out, we threw the go balls, and, so I just think, like, our guys, like, learning, like, hey, because we're winning a few games now, people are going to do different things against us, and I've got to get to the game. I've got to recognize what's happening in this game. It's not all this emotion beating our chest. It's like getting to the game and being like, what are they doing? Oh, hey, this is a cover 2 game. Hey, this is this game. Hey, this is that game. And then them seeing the preparation, the things that we're working on and showing up. Like Barrett Liebentritt, I said this on the thing, he had the same play in practice that wasn't very good. We showed it to the whole team. He got in the game, and he absolutely took out 2 guys, like you guys said. I hadn't seen that yet. So, hey, practice matters, practice matters. And the guy that he hit in practice was Marquise Buford, who's, 2 ACLs, bad shoulder, bad hip, bad neck, plays in every play, but yet he's out there in his black shirt, competing on a Tuesday, because that's what we do here. And so I think those older guys, them still being coachable, them still having a lot of say in things, like even some of the discipline issues that I'm dealing with, with guys on the team. I take those things to like the leadership council. Like, hey, how do you guys think we should handle this? I haven't done that in a long time, but I'm taking it to them because it matters, which is, to be quite fair. This is why I really don't want to talk. I don't want to talk about the guys that aren't doing things right. I want to talk about because I have so many guys who are doing things right. I know you have to ask about them. Trust me, I get your job. You just have, I sometimes you to see why I'm the way I am. But I'm just blessed to have guys out like Tommy Hill's out there battling to play, so battling to get back out there.
Hard-fought game in the second half for our players and showed a lot of resiliency, and congratulations to Michigan on the victory. And that's what rivalry games are supposed to look like down to the end, and got to give them a lot of credit. They made a lot more plays than we did in the first half. It was a tale of 2 halves. Unfortunately, we've had 2 of those games where it's been a tale of 2 halves. We haven't played 60 total minutes of really elite football yet, which gives us hope and excitement as we keep going forward. And I said this before. I said you have to be, I think, really good at losing to continue to find ways to win. And I'm not accepting losing. What I'm saying that is you have to understand when you do lose, you're going to learn the most. And our players I can't give them enough credit for how hard they played in the second half, the resiliency they showed, because that's going to stay with them through life. That's going to stay through them as husbands and fathers and adults, leaders of their family. when they go through really, really dark and tragic and hard times. I mean, that showed what type of character those guys have. And they've always done that. And that's what I admired about them. I told them after the game how proud of them I was, and our staff, how proud of the staff I was. But I also told them yesterday, I said, now listen, you take that moment and you capture that moment in the locker room, and then you move on to Sunday to learn. And I said, sometimes when you get to that point, we're over moral victories. I think you can all understand that about me, that there are no moral victories. And when you are getting told, like, man, that was such a great fight. Oh, that was so amazing from the external, right? Which is fine. You can have that in the moment. But then after that, that can be just as much rat poisoning as winning a game, that game, and being patted on the back. Great job. We needed to be able to learn from Saturday, yesterday, and be able to move on. And I thought our guys did an unbelievable job of that. I think they've handled everything with class and played their hearts out, and I couldn't be more proud of them for that. At the end of the day, winning's the objective, and we didn't do that. Simple. And it took 60-some plays on both sides of the ball to get to that last play. So every play tells its own story, as I said in the press conference after the game. Not one play will ever lose you a game, but I do believe that one play can win you a game. But it's not just one play. So, I mean, you've got all. That's why every play tells its own individual story. So we've got to be better in those things. We did not win 78%, and that's the story of the game. We were -1 in the takeaway battle. We didn't win the tackling, or -1 in the turnover battle. Didn't win the tackling battle, and the explosive plays were pretty close in the run and pass. We had a fumble that turned into 7 points for them. We had a block punt, which turned in for 7 points for them. We had a missed field goal. Now, they had some errors too. You listen to Coach Moore, and he's talking about how bad they played, right? I mean, so there's two sides of that. You look at the Georgia-Alabama game. Georgia's down 30-7 at halftime. Who would have thought that? Like, it's college football. Jim Tressel told me a long time ago, because I said, why do you coach college football? He goes, you never know what's going to happen. And that's exactly the way he said it and walked away. And the ball's not round. It's, so we did some unbelievable things in that game. In the return game with Coy Parrish, had an unbelievable punt return and shows how explosive he can be. We executed a bonsai perfectly at the very end of the first half, and that's exactly how that drive should have been and ended. You don't have enough time to technically get that snap off. You can't clock it because it's under 3 seconds. And we practiced that play once a day, every day for the last 12 years, and I've used it twice. That's situational football. When you look at situational football, T2, end of half, end of game, bonsai situations, I think our team's been really strong in situational football, of things that might be overlooked. But they've done an unbelievable job of winning a lot of the situational football. Other than that, right? So not exactly, pleased with, obviously, the outcome of the game in terms of win-loss, but I think our team showed what they're made of and showed how much fun this is going to be the next 7 games. And that's what it's all about. You give yourself a best chance to win. Now, we got to put 60 minutes of football together, and that is my job. The head football coach's job is to make sure your team plays the best from the kickoff till the final buzzer. That's my job, and I'm solely responsible for that. And it's my job to get it fixed and my job to get the most out of these players. So with that said, leave it up for questions.
PJ, when you're looking at 60 minutes of football, what are you looking for specifically in the run game offensively?
Just execution. It's one guy here, it's one guy there. It's a hold here or a false start there. It's behind the chains. It's a finishing of a block. It's a communication up front. But, we're going to be really good at running the football. We can be really good at running the football. We are really good at running the football. But we can't force ourselves, Andy. It's a great question because we're forcing ourselves to get away from it sooner than we want to get away from it. You're forcing ourselves, whether that's by turning the ball over, giving up scores on defense, getting away from our game plan because of, drives that are going against us on defense. On the offensive side, we're dropping the ball, putting ourselves in a tough position. We can't just say, okay, we're going to establish a run and just do it and then go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Why would I do that? Right? I mean, so we have to listen to what we're good at now, and then watch practice of what we're getting better at, and then go get better at it, and then go execute it better in a game. And that's what's fun about being able to go through the season, because you want to get better. Your team should get better. And I'm watching us get better at a lot of things. But again, we're making too many small, in terms of play numbers, catastrophic when you look at the game.
PJ, the false start issues we had, concentration, is that the main thing with those?
I think it's two things, Randy. I think it's a really good point. I think we were really disciplined in a lot of ways that people look at a false start and they're all undisciplined. We did a lot of things in that game where we had to be able to switch snap counts up, move snap counts up, especially on short yardage stuff of what we were going to do, whether it was fake claps, multiple claps, whether it was under center and it was freeze cadence. And they did a really good job of that. But it's a flinch here or a flinch there. How we're getting to that, got to give Michigan's fans a lot of credit. We had too many. And again, I think when you look at the amount of penalties we have, we're used to being the least penalized team in the country. So when you start comparing yourself to yourself, anything below number one in the country, I mean, it's disappointing, because that's how we play football. Now there's people that have 17, 16 penalties a game. Like, we're not undisciplined. We're just making some mistakes in some critical situations. And we got to be better at that and be more disciplined just within those situations. And I think some of them are really, really close. There's been times where I thought, okay, they were in the neutral zone first and we moved and we got called for a false start. But, there's things like that come up, and you got to really analyze that, look at it, and move on.
When you think about the third quarter against Iowa or the second quarter against Michigan, how do you stop the bleeding sooner so you don't spend the rest of the game trying to dig out of it?
Yeah, Ryan, that's a great question. And if I had the exact answer for that, I would have stopped the bleeding of the first artery that was pouring open, because those are the things that make you bleed out quick. And now the whole game plan changes. And I'm using an analogy, right? Because you started with the blood analogy, so I just went from there. I don't want to make sure everybody thinks it's like that. So it comes down to why. And remember, Sundays, whether we win or lose, it comes down to why did that happen? Every play. Our job as coaches is to critique every single play and look for ways for us to improve that particular call, play, situation. And we have to be able to tackle better. There's times we have people in there that we're tackling, we're thudding them up, but they break a tackle. We slide off them. We shoot our shot too low. We duck our heads. We're not swarming to the ball. We get our eyes somewhere else, and we're a half step too late to the gap. And the people that we're playing, remember, we're playing some really good running football teams, and they gap you out. And when they gap you out, which we like to do too, you better be right. And if you're not right and you're a half a step too slow, or you break a tackle, that can lead to huge plays. And we're not playing, me at running back. We played some of the best running backs in the entire country over the last few weeks. And but again, this is where we have to be. I'm going to give you the analogy of, like, you're in the batter's box and you got the donut on the baseball bat. You got multiple donuts on the baseball bat. But when you get ready to go in the batter's circle, right? You go up to the plate, batter's box. You knock the donuts off, and your bat should be lighter. We're just leaving some donuts on the bat while we're at the plate. Get all the donuts off in the batter's circle before you get to the batter's box. Get them all off. We're making it a little harder on ourselves. And a lot of things we're doing are just self-inflicted. Eyes in the wrong spot, not being able to run our feet through the tackle. Almost we're tackling to the man, not through the man. And those come down to us executing our fundamentals way better, which come down to me as a head football coach and getting that coached and getting that done better.
PJ, you look at film of Miller Moss, what stands out to you?
Everything. I mean, he's a gunslinger. I mean, he can throw it around. It's one thing to be a gunslinger. It's another thing to be a gunslinger that's accurate. He's throwing for over 70% completion percentage, and it's not just on screens. And I mean, he's throwing through windows that are about that big. He's agile. He can move. He can run. You can tell that he is a football player first and a quarterback second, because he loves the game and he makes everybody else around him better. Now, they got 4 to 5 receivers they're all big. They can all create space. They can all run, flat out fly. Their offensive line is probably the biggest we've played all year. And they run the football. I mean, they run the football with, they're running multiple running backs, a lot of counter, a lot of pullers, and they're big and physical. And I think one thing Lincoln's really done a great job of as he's gone through his career is he's running the ball more effectively than he ever has. And he's not running it just to break the throwing streaks. He's running it with effectiveness to run the football. And it's been, I've studied him for a lot of years, just watching what he's done at Oklahoma and USC. And he's I think, part of that generation that's kind of reinvented the game of his offensive mind and what he's been able to do. I have a ton of respect for him. And you can tell by how hard his guys play on offense. And on defense, they've got a lot of things that have a lot of similarities to the team we just played. Their coordinator comes a little bit from the wink tree, and, they do a lot of similarities. They're different, but they're an aggressive style of defense, and they've got corners that are all 6'2", 6'3", long. They got a linebacker at 6'6". They got a really stout up front defensive line. And you look at that Michigan game, I mean, they're one play away from winning that game in the last final seconds of, basically a 1-yard run. And so, I mean, they're a really good football team. I mean, they're a highly ranked team. This is our, second straight week of playing a top 12 team. And that's the fun thing about the new Big Ten.
How important would it be to start out early? Only 9 points so far in the season in the first quarter. None of those coming against the 3 Power 4 opponents. Just how important is it to start against a ranked opponent like USC early?
Yeah, I don't care who it's against. We talk about starting fast, accelerate in the middle, win the middle 8, and then finish strong, period. I mean, that is our standard. And we know it too. I think you all have the stats and you all have the percentages, and that's part of your job is to find that, what we're not doing well. And I can appreciate that because we're not doing it well. The key is execution, period. It sounds generic. It sounds boring, but it's true. We have a drop here. We have a missed protection here. We have an early fumble. We have something that gets us off our rhythm, right? And I don't believe in momentum. And I think that we've allowed momentum to creep in here and there and rely on that. And I told our players that yesterday. I said, that's why we don't believe in it. We're dictating our own tempo of what we want to execute on offense. And we've got to start way faster. We got to start even faster on defense. So, we're down 21-0 before we know it. That changes so many things when you're playing a top 12 team, guys. And it's self-inflicted. However, I know we have a block punt and a fumble, but our defense we talk about as a team, I don't care. We play defense for 100 yards, 120 yards, 53 and a third, the width of the field, period. It doesn't matter where they get the ball. We got to hold them to field goals. And, I think our defense takes a lot of pride in that. And unfortunately, they got 14 points where it could have been possibly 6. Even when it went really wrong, we still could have been able to stop the bleeding, and we weren't able to do that.
What did you see after watching that onside kickback on tape?
Yeah, okay, so here's what I'll say about that. I had a conversation with the Big Ten commissioner and the officials. We know they are reviewing it, and we expect to hear something this afternoon. So that's all I'll say about the last play.
BJ, how do you look at going to tempo when the game script doesn't call for it? Obviously, you talk about kind of not wanting to go 3 and out and give the ball right back to him, but it feels like Max might be comfortable in that situation.
Well, we've done it. We've done a part of our game plan. It's never been just a reaction. We've done it in the first half. We've done it in the second quarter. We've done it in the fourth quarter. We've done it in 2-minute drill. Andy, we have a lot of tempos, right? And we can go at a 2-minute rate, which is very different, right, than a 4-minute rate, right? There's a 2-minute rate, then there's a kind of a NASCAR rate, right, pace, and then there's an Indy car pace. Like we have all these paces that we can go at based on the flow of the game. We've gotten to it early, we've done it early, and then we haven't had success. We've done it early and had success. But the whole point is to mix it in and out strategically for us to have an advantage. It's not meant to be just a reaction. Start of the second half, we're not in 2-minute, but we had to be able to speed the tempo up because we're down 18 points. We're down 3 scores. We had to move it at a little bit faster rate. But it wasn't the rate. It was the execution. The flow, the pace of the game. If we thought that our team was the best team in hurry up, we'd just hurry up the whole time. And if we thought that was the best thing to do, we would do that. We believe that it's to sprinkle it. Now, do we sprinkle it a little more? Do we sprinkle it a little less? I think those are the questions you have to ask, but it's more of the execution because when we aren't going at that type of pace, we're playing really good football too, but then we're also playing really bad football. When we do go at that rate, there's times we're doing really well. And then there's times with 13 seconds off the clock, we just ran 3 plays, and now we punt right back and our defense is back on the field. So it's all game plan. It's all based on you want it to be more response with your own team than reaction to the other team. And right now it feels like we're not able to do it in terms of on our own control, but we're able to do it when we have to react. And that's the execution piece that we got to get fixed.
What's the message? What's the message to Dragon currently?
Yeah, keep rowing, man. Baseball terms, keep swinging. Right? Chopping a tree down, keep chopping. And football, in kicking terms, keep kicking it. Just do it better. That's it. That's the message. I believe in him 100%. Guys, most of his field goals are outside 50 yards. That's how much I trust him. And, you know, I make a joke like 55 yards that's a tough field goal for anybody. But he can make it, or I wouldn't put him out there. I watch him every day in practice. And this is just like, I go back to Major League Baseball. Some of us love baseball. Right? I think Aaron Judge was getting booed at the beginning of the year. Am I right? Like there was the first month of baseball. Wasn't Aaron Judge having a hard time? Okay, yes. Okay, there we go. We got a yes out of the crowd. Because I was hoping I was really right because my brain remembered that, right? But now he's close to 60 home runs. The Yankees are doing pretty good. Like great players, that doesn't mean that they're not going to go through their own struggles. And I believe in them wholeheartedly, and I'm going to continue to believe in them. And I'm going to continue to do that. And that's my faith and belief in my team. And I'll always do that because I see what he does on a daily basis. And you've all seen what he can do. He'll get it right. I know he'll get it right.
What do you feel like were the keys to this?
Okay, all good. Well, quick turnaround. Just walked off the practice field and kind of turned the page to a brand new opponent, another challenging opponent on the road, but excited about the opportunity. Friday night, these guys, our guys, I'll start with that. Went to work today, felt good about what we got accomplished. We just moved everything up one day, and so we had a good kind of 2-hour practice out there, guys moving around, and we'll be back to our rhythm tomorrow. When you look at Oregon, explosive offensively, quarterback's a good player, accurate with the ball. He might be leading the country in completion percentage, and they got some athletes that he's throwing it to. Flip it around, got a solid defense. I look at those guys, they just continue to improve. From game 1 to game, I think 4, those guys have continued to improve and played really, really well against UCLA, held them pretty much throughout the entire game. So big time challenge, tough atmosphere. Know the place that, it's definitely an exciting fan base that feels like they impact the game. And so these are the type of games you love playing in. With that, questions?
Jonathan, you said everything moved up a day. I was just wondering, I know you guys played a Friday game earlier, but that was the opener. Just how that, walking off the field Saturday night to this week, how that changes anything?
Well, you just kind of, we definitely looked at the game in the morning on Sunday, but then you flip the script pretty quick and you transition to your next opponent. And so we were, late into the night on Sunday game planning and prepping for what we got done today.
Jonathan, is it bizarre for you to be facing an opponent that's sort of been ingrained in your culture since you were a player as the rival? From a place that doesn't have that same relationship with them, yet you've got coaches on your staff. You've got one who was the coach there last year, but you've got coaches on your staff who came with you, players that came with you. Can you explain that dynamic and what it feels like?
Yeah, I think just a little bit. Played Oregon when I was at other universities as a coach too, and so kind of been through this before. That you had a different place and connections. We know, through experience, kind of how tough it is, that atmosphere and where we're playing at, and so we're going to just try to prep our guys for a tough road environment.
I'm wondering, for kind of off that, how do you kind of separate the emotion of what the rivalry means to you from Oregon State's perspective and kind of take that maybe neutral look at it? I think you kind of touched on it some last year, that you kind of got to remove yourself a little bit.
Well, yeah, and again, once the thing's kicked off, you're approaching it as, as a coach of what can preparing the guys, and then throughout the game, you get locked in on the game. And so, and it's not just myself. Like you said, we got some other guys with connections to the place and all of that. And once it's kicked off, it's a college football game that you kind of emotionally approach it the same.
Jonathan, your knowledge of the Oregon program, does that help Michigan State more than it helps them knowing, hey, we know what the Smith program is?
Yeah, I think it's a two-way street. You look at it that way. Obviously, their schemes the last couple of years been consistent, and so we've studied and game planned against, and that's two-way street. Same with us offensively. They've been able to kind of know, and again, the offenses aren't exactly the same year in and year out, right? They're always developing, but I don't know if there's one side gets an advantage with it.
I had one other, I might as well ask it now. You'd been so good at getting to the quarterback, affecting them, getting tackles for losses, and Saturday he had a lot more time. Could you tell what that was? Was it just better protection?
Yeah, credit to those guys. They did a good job, and you got to pick your poison a little bit, how much you want to pressure, and they've got some, talking to Ohio State, so much talent on the outside that you expose yourself to a lot of one-on-one when you do that, and so it was a balance of, they did a nice job, and us trying to continue to mix up our looks.
Post-game, Captain Nate Carter's comments about what he and his teammates would talk about in the locker room as far as what they need to do going forward, kind of referring to the player-led team aspect. Can you talk about the dynamics between the player-led aspect and the coach-led aspect of your team right now?
Yeah, I think that, on the coaching side, you want to be able to kind of share the vision of what it needs to look like, but then, pass the ownership to the players. And these guys have, I don't think, as a coaching staff, we're over-coaching these guys because we've got some leadership and some belief, and they know and they want to play really well. And that's why I do describe us as player-led.
You left Oregon State, and obviously Oregon left the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 kind of started imploding and stuff like that. I'm just curious if there's any type of survivor's guilt for the players or the coaches or the programs that have left the Pac-12 and kind of left behind Washington State and Oregon State. And I know that they're obviously playing in different situations now, but do you know what I'm trying to ask?
I guess, that conference was a historical conference of champions, and that's painful when that kind of goes away. There is some pride and grit to the two great places that are still there, Washington State and Oregon State, and so they play at a high level. They're playing at a high level this year. And so I think a lot of us, I don't know what regret, but just do remember how great that conference was and know how good those two universities are.
And could you also describe your relationship with Dan Lanning? Again, you were at rival schools for a while, and you're an offensive-minded coach, and he's a defensive-minded coach as well.
Yeah, I think Dan's a really good coach. Got a bunch of respect for him. We're not talking every day, but enjoy our conversations when we gather at meetings and whatnot. He's done a great job there, and he'll present another challenge with his team. Those guys play hard, schematically sound, and that's just the MO of his program.
Jonathan, I'm wondering, I know a condensed weekend here for you, but when you did watch Ohio State back, anything stuck out to you that didn't really resonate Saturday night that was different once you were able to watch it, and that really was revealing, I guess, that you didn't notice in real time?
Yeah, I think in general, I thought our protection was a step better than watching it. We had some leakage where I was just more impressed with Aiden standing in there making some accurate throws. That jumped on me on the film. Looking at us on defense on third down, we had some opportunities that could have changed to get off the field. That showed up a little bit.
Jonathan, I was wondering, we saw Maverick Hansen, I think Malik Spencer, Angelo, any of those guys long-term injuries?
Nothing out of the game long-term. We're definitely getting to that point, 5 straight games, bumps and bruises, kind of mid-season healthy, but nothing long-term.
And then I should have asked you this last week probably, but the 4-game redshirt rule, I was just wondering what your approach is to it with these guys. If there's anybody that you've decided, all right, we're just going to shut you down to save a year, if anybody's making individual decisions.
We tried to be strategic on knowing that there's 4 and not just spending all 4 of them in the first 4 games. And so, we're beginning to have conversations with a guy or two that's played in 1 or 2 because we want to have available guys as the season goes on. Just talked about the injury end. So we try to be, like I said, not just spend all 4 games the first 4.
Kind of goes into what I wanted to ask you about Rakeem and Rustin getting the snaps that they did, how important that was and what you saw from that, but also the other guys in the secondary with Brinson and Denson. Denson played quite a bit, it seemed like.
Yeah, Denson's going to be playing. He's been playing a little on special teams, and he actually did a nice job defensively with a couple of tackles. The 2 old linemen, it was good experience for them. I thought they battled out there. We're going to keep pushing that to to see if those guys are one of the best 5 we can put out there. Stanton took some reps today, so by the end of the week, we'll know where that 5s are at. But kind of liked how Rakeem Rustin battled out there against a really good D-line.
Jack Velling had said at media days back in the summer that there was a little bit of a bitterness when Oregon State was left out of the expansion. Does that play a factor at all in this upcoming game, if not for you, for the players?
Yeah, I don't think so. Again, there's plenty to get motivated for what we've got going. In a conference game, it's still kind of early in conference play. We're on the road. I don't think any of that's on the forefront of our mind.
Jonathan, I guess since we are talking about it, when the Pac-12 is kind of making a little bit of a resurgence with some other teams, what's that like for somebody with familiarity from that region? What's that like to see?
Yeah, well, I look at those teams. Those teams have played really good. I think about football. Those guys have beaten multiple teams throughout the years. That's good football. I mean, I coached at Boise State. Those are good football teams.
What I wanted to ask mostly is, I don't know, again, how far you're able to go back. When you look at Oregon, though, it seems like the last couple weeks they've improved, from early on. Just what do you notice as a difference from early to these last few?
Yeah, I think every team's a little bit different each time you play, and I credit to those coaches. They've continued to get better. Early on, they were explosive. You have to look at Boise and special teams, a couple huge explosion plays, and then they've tightened some details up and improved in week 3 and definitely in week 4.
To that point, I guess what have you seen from Dylan Gabriel over there and how he's operated? And then I was going to ask about the special teams, punt return and a kickoff return touchdown.
Yeah. The 2 returners are explosive. They block the thing well. Schematically, they do a nice job on special teams, kind of stressing you, giving you different looks. Dylan Gabriel, I go again, accuracy, not just completing the pass, but where he's placing the ball so they can catch and run, quick decisions. Really good player. I mean, he's athletic. He can run. He's got a long couple carries on tape already, and so you can see the experience and talent. And he looks very, very confident and comfortable in that system.
I'm wondering how much muscle memory there really is from a year ago with all this stuff with the portal and guys coming and going. I mean, it was your last game at Oregon State was facing those guys, but how much different are they in the course of those couple months?
There's some the same, some differences. I think about the way you game plan them. And so, we're definitely watching a lot of tape, not just the 4 games. We're watching previous season and going back on our own notes to try to put a great plan together.
I was wondering what you saw to Jordan Turner on Saturday night. He had the fumble that was a forced fumble and recovery that was called back. He had the interception, and he looked like he was he had himself a good game.
He did. He was impacting things, physical, flying around, playing with emotion. The interception was huge. Even the way he picks the thing and he runs down the sidelines, great ball security with it. Nearly gets the fumble out. I get it. Looked like he was down, but he was flying around out there.
So Ohio State rolled up a lot of yards. They're going to do that against a lot of people. But did you feel good that you didn't allow those 70-yarders that they were showing against Marshall and everybody else?
We tried to be intentional of not giving it like that 70, 60 yards. They had a few explosive plays. I think in one run, first and 20, popped out for about 30 or so. But that's a really good team. Credit to them by executing and finishing drives for touchdowns. That's what we did. We moved the ball. We didn't finish like them.
But an accomplishment there to keep 11 guys on defense on the same.
To an extent, yeah. I mean, everyone knows those guys are pretty good and explosive. But again, our bar, we want to continue to raise to where we can play dominant defense against whoever we play. And we're not quite there yet.
And your run offense, your first 2 tailbacks, I think, averaged about 4.1 yards per carry. Weren't able to get a lot of carries because of the way the game unfolded, I would imagine. But some progress there in the run game?
I think there was some flashes. I mean, the way we opened it up, and, Nate, the first carry of the game, got some increase. K-Ron fell forward multiple times. Still had a couple of negatives on there. Like you said, the game kind of got to a point where we were throwing a little bit more, and really didn't stay on the field long enough in the second half. You look at our total snaps, we had 50 total snaps. I think they were in the 70s, and so there's progress. Like I said, you get beat pretty good, but you watch the tape and there's things to build your confidence from, and then definitely things you've got to get fixed.
Okay.
Jonathan, you had it with Nick Marsh at Maryland. Ohio State's had it with Jeremiah Smith all year, and then you saw what Alabama with a 17-year-old is doing. Is it something about that position, or just guys more gifted, they're more advanced, and come in and do it right away?
Well, I think those guys are gifted, without question, and they don't come around that often, that young, to be so impactful. But I mean, seeing it in person, and we feel great where Marsh is at and where he can go. I don't know if it's just the receiver position or anything, but those guys are talented.
Also, another player in the playing group, Ben Roberts, showed some ability there that maybe in the spring game, I don't know if you saw it there or not, but it looked like he was ready to play on Saturday.
He's been working, yeah, and again, he's part of that group. We've been rotating a good amount of the D line to keep him fresh and all that, and he's part of that group. We trust and make it physical, and I was excited for him to get out there and play.
Excited to be back into game week. Had a great week over the bye. Some priorities, throughout the bye week were, getting this team, getting this group back to as close to full strength as we can, and prioritizing health. Secondly, really prioritizing is improving. As a team, fundamentally, technically, self-scout, self-evaluation, where we can continue to put our guys in, best situations. And lastly, starting our prep on Indiana, and to our team's credit, to our guys' credit, I thought we accomplished all three of those things. Had some really competitive practices midweek. We're really able to phase into some Indiana focus, which was a great opportunity to get ahead on those guys. And this group is excited for the opportunity that lies ahead. Coach Cignetti has done an incredible job. It's a hot football team right now. They're playing really confident, playing really well. Off to a 5-0 start. No weaknesses on this team. Play really well in all three phases. Really high-level quarterback play. Well-coached offense, well-rounded, balanced. Defensively, they're playing at a really high level, and certainly very well coached on special teams. So an incredible opportunity, incredible challenge in front of us. Excited that we're going to be doing it at home here on the lakefront. Thrilled that our students are back on campus, and really looking forward to the environment that we're going to be able to create Saturday afternoon.
Was there an area where you felt health-wise you really needed to get better? Any particular unit, and any word on Cam?
Yeah, the O-line is certainly an area of health that we need to, our depth has been challenged in that room, but excited about the continued development of the whole room. But excited to hopefully get, Nick Herzog back this week and available. Cam's definitely trending in the right direction. We'll know more as the week goes along in terms of Cam's availability, but really hopeful that he'll be available on Saturday. If there's anyone that's going to work their tails off to make sure that they're back, it's Cam Porter. But definitely trending in the right direction.
Coach, now that you've had this bye week to do some self-scout, where would you evaluate your offense a third of the way through the season?
Yeah, we're not playing at the level that we want to, but I think there's a lot of areas that we're excited about to see some breakthrough in. Up until Washington, I felt we were doing a great job of establishing the run game. I think when we're operating efficiently and staying ahead of the chains, we saw some things in the passing game, the second half against Eastern Illinois that we can continue to build off of. Was really proud of the way that, going back and evaluating the film, really proud of the way that Jack stood in and continued to compete against Washington. He's standing in the pocket, taking some hits, delivering the ball. There were opportunities out there in the passing game that we didn't convert on. And, I think the critical piece for us offensively is making sure that guys continue to be urgent in their prep process and their preparation. But we have such a prideful group that knows there's more within us that there can be a certain level of pressing at times, and we just need to take a deep breath, take it one play at a time, execute. And I think areas that we can help our guys do that is, number one, consistently establishing the run game, which we did in the first 3 games, and utilize that as an asset to open up other areas of our offense.
How much of the struggles would you count to scheme versus execution?
You know, I think one thing myself and our entire staff will always self-evaluate is, you know, it can be really easy as a coach to point the finger and say, oh, we need to execute, or, you know, this person needs to play better. And to be honest with you, that's kind of like a, you know, passive way of pointing fingers. You know, I think there's always things that we can do as coaches to put our guys in better situations. And that's in all 3 phases, you know. I think the best coaches, you know, can have one of the best stat lines they've ever had as a coach and still find areas that they can put their guys in better situations. I think our staff is constantly finding those areas to improve. I think the balance in that, David, is making sure that you're not trying to come up with the perfect call or the perfect game plan and allowing those game plans to balloon. And now you're almost putting too much on the guys, and now they're playing slow. And especially coming off a bye week, I challenged our staff yesterday. I said, the thing that will not happen, we're not going to let this game plan balloon on us just because we have more time to put into it. You know, at the end of the day, we got to create comfort calls. And, you know, if we call the same thing 5 times, great. If it's working, keep going back to it. And but it certainly was a great opportunity for us to evaluate all 3 phases where we're at, do a lot of self-scout, self-study, and find areas that we can put our guys in better positions.
Coach, do you have any updates on Carmine Bastone's status, and how have you seen him sort of embrace his role as a captain and as a leader from the sidelines thus far?
Really proud of the way that he's handled this. I mean, everyone in this room is aware of how hard it is, you know, to not be available to play, and especially someone as competitive is Carmine. That has not been easy on him, but never once has hung his head, has taken a very active leadership role, whether it be in meetings, practice, on the sideline during game day, has truly embodied that captain role. You know, like I said, it's you know, we were hopeful to have Carmine back at this point, but just a finicky deal that he's dealing with and making sure that he's back to full strength before he returns to play. You know, he's probably doubtful this week. But, you know, again, we are anticipating a return here, you know, sooner than later, and certainly cannot wait to have him back out on the field.
When you made the quarterback change from Mike Wright to Jack Lausch, one of the things you talked about was the importance of protecting the ball, limiting turnovers. Mm-hmm. Against Washington, it seemed like Jack sometimes pulled the ball down late. Do you think it's in the back of his mind, you know, when you're asking him to play free and with confidence, do you think it's kind of a conflicting message to ask a young quarterback to also be so mindful of avoiding turnovers?
Yeah, and that's why I don't use language like avoiding turnovers. You know, it's value the football. You make a convicted decision and let it rip. But don't be reckless and put the ball in danger just to try and make a play. I think for the most part, Jack did a great job of that. Other than the 2-minute drive, you know, at the end of the half, I think Jack did a good job of valuing the football, and you know, I think we've done a good job of not sending a conflicting message in that regard.
Coach, as you mentioned, first game back with students on campus. What's your message to students coming to the game, and what's your message to students who are on the fence about going?
Yeah, wild side, let's go. I mean, can't wait. My message to all our students is, you know, get your hands on a ticket, show up for opening kick, stay for all 4 quarters. This is going to be Big Ten ball at its best, a 4-quarter battle. You have a tremendous impact on the game. We've seen that firsthand at Ryan Field. We've seen it firsthand in Welsh Ryan over the last couple of years. You know, really excited to see the student turnout at field hockey a couple weeks ago. It's just that momentum is building, and we can't wait for our students to be a part of football on the lakefront. And if you can't get your hands on a ticket, come be a part of game day. I mean, there's so much incredible things going on campus on Saturdays in the fall right now, and we want you to be a part of it.
Coach, you talk.
Guys, thanks for coming out. You know, a little chance to recruit on Saturday, and then back at it, getting ready for Nebraska, very good football team. Matt Rhule, excellent coach. Known Matt for a long, long time, and he does a great job. He's certainly got that thing going in the right direction, and now it's being seen in the record. They got really good players. They're well coached. Offensively, Rhule, the quarterback, the freshman, is incredibly talented. You don't usually see a freshman that's capable of kind of doing the things he's doing right now. They got 3 really big wideouts, Nair, Banks, and Bonner. I mean, each one's bigger than the next. I mean, they're gigantic, very physical group. They've drawn a lot of DPIs, as you can imagine, because of their size and the way they kind of move DBs around. The tight end, I mess up the way you say it, Fedone or Fedoni, he is a really good player. I think he is one of the better ones we'll see this year. And then the offensive line is big and physical. So offensively, they're definitely going to be a huge challenge. Defensively, I think their defensive line is stout. Robinson, 9, and then 0 and 1. I think it's Butler and I don't know if I'll say this right, Hutmaker. Those 3 guys, as physical as you're going to see. The linebackers, we kind of know one of them. He's an Irvington kid that we recruited, really good player, in Bear. And then I think the secondary is really well coached. I mean, they play together. They play. You can see they know what they're doing with the scheme. So I think their defense is one of the better ones in America, and they certainly understand what their defense coordinator wants them to do. Tony's a heck of a coach, and I think that it's a well-coached team. It's a talented team, and we're going to play them in a very, very tough place to play. So to say our plate is full would be an understatement, but that's the Big Ten. That's why I love it. So I'll try to answer anything I can.
You mentioned Dylan Rhule and what he's able to do as a freshman. Can you kind of expand on that? I mean, what kind of stands out when you watch the film that kind of is surprising, given that he's a true freshman?
Well, the command that he has of their offense is, I would say is good for any level, but for a freshman is unheard of. And he's a very gifted athlete. He's big, he's mobile, he can throw on the move, he can throw from the pocket. There's not much this guy can't do, but that's why he was such a highly recruited quarterback, right? He's got all the tools.
Defensively, are you more encouraged about the way your team played in the red zone against Washington, or are you more concerned about some of the big plays you guys gave up that helped them set up in the red zone?
Well, we've been playing pretty good red zone defense here now for last season and then the beginning of this season. There's other areas that we're not playing real good defense, and we have to get it corrected. Tackling is one of them. We haven't tackled well. And I wouldn't say it was just last week. I would say overall I don't think we've tackled well. So we need to make sure, number one, that gets fixed. We need to make sure we're all on the same page in everything we're doing.
Specifically, back to defense, no sacks or tackles for loss against Washington, and Rutgers has dropped to 115th and 126th nationally in those 2 categories. What's your concern level about getting pressure and playing behind the line of scrimmage?
Yeah, I mean, we had our opportunities. We didn't get them, so we have to, certainly a concern. You're not going to win consistently playing defense that way. As a matter of fact, it's rare when you do.
Ethan, I know he didn't necessarily have big numbers on Friday night, but his command of the offense, the control, and the ability to step up and make some big throws at big times, how does that change the dynamic of the offense?
Yeah, I think it changes it a lot. You look at when you're 7 for 15 on 3rd down, a lot of that is on the shoulders of your quarterback and your receivers and your offensive line. But the guy who's handling the footballs is the quarterback. And Nathan did a very good job, answering after the block kick, throwing the fade for a touchdown. So those are all plays that we need him to make for us to win, and that's why he's here, and he's doing a good job.
Tackling issue. I mean, what kind of caused that? Because obviously in past years that really hasn't been as much of an issue. I guess what can kind of lead to that slipping?
You know what? There's been some different guys in the lineup. We got some guys coming back into the lineup. Attention to detail, a lot of things. Angles of entry on the tackle. There's a whole bunch of things. But it doesn't matter. We need to get them. We need to get them corrected, and the end result is you have to drop. Now the reality is Friday night they had a really hard guy to tackle, but that's the Big Ten. You know, we're going to see that this week. They do running back by committee, but it's a pretty darn good committee. So we better get it fixed, or we're going to have some issues. And then the receivers, we better tackle them. I mean, they're all 220 pounds. You know, it's not like tackling your normal 190-pound, 200-pound receiver.
You guys have won 2 one-score games this season. Nebraska has a very long streak of losing one-score games in Big Ten play. Do you feel confident about your team pulling through in these tight games that I imagine not only this weekend but the rest of the Big Ten schedule will provide?
Yeah, every game's independent of the others. I do believe experience is good. Don't get me wrong. And experience under pressure, no doubt, any kind of experience that you can call upon that was positive is a good one. But I think when you get in that next one, it's totally about that opponent, that game. So, and we know, it's going to be a challenge for sure. They're a really good team.
Follow up. I think in the locker room in Virginia Tech, there was a clip of you saying you saw something in your team's eyes when they went for that big drive to take the game, the win. Do you see something in that team? Maybe it is the experience you speak about, but do you see something in this team that in those moments is different than maybe teams you had in the past?
I've had a lot of teams that have that look, but since we've come back, that was a pretty different look that I received, as I mentioned, at the Virginia Tech game. So that's a positive. Look, the Big Ten is the most challenging league in the country, and it requires you to get better every week. If you don't, you'll get left in the dust. So really my main focus is just getting our team as improved as we can by Saturday. Will it be enough? I don't know, but I can't control that. What I can control is my staff and I challenging and presenting opportunities for them to improve, and hopefully they take advantage of those opportunities, because that's what being in it together is all about. We have a job, they have a job. Together we both do our jobs. It's going to be an improved product on Saturday.
To go back to Rhule, when you're preparing for a quarterback that doesn't have a lot of experience as a freshman, does it change your approach or your attack at all versus a quarterback like last week with Rutgers, who's been around the block a few times?
It might, if you didn't see what he's done so far. He does not look fazed by disguised coverages. He does not look fazed by he gets hit and pops up and is fine. So I think this guy's mature beyond his years. He's grown up in a football family. I think he's kind of made to do this.
You mentioned the size of Nebraska's receivers. What's your message to your secondary cornerbacks, playing guys bigger, more physical, and Eric Rogers got shaken up there at the end. Is he going to be good to go in this circumstance?
Yeah, I'm not. It's a good try, but I'm not going to talk about the availability report before the game. You'll get all that stuff. But what I talk to the DBs about all the time, but it's really emphasized more, is you need to be really precise with your angles of entry, your coverage mechanics, because if you're at all out of position, these guys have such large catch radiuses, and they can use their body to box you out. So you're really going to have to slip the hip and really be playing good football to be able to make a play on the ball.
Just going back to Eric, obviously he's been pretty productive this season after stepping into the bigger role following Max leaving. I guess what have you seen from him and kind of what he's been able to do?
Who are we talking about?
Eric Rogers.
Eric Rogers. Yeah, I think Eric, he played a lot last year, so I don't think this is new to him. He was in a 3-man rotation. I think we got to get more guys playing at corner. I think that's an issue, is the corners are probably taking too many snaps right now. I like to have a 3-man rotation going, and I think Bo Masco and Ashadi Salam need to play more. I think they're good players. So we'll probably try to get them involved more. And again, when you're playing against big wideouts like that, it tires you out when they lean on you, so we're going to have to be aware of that. And it's going to be really hot Saturday too. Temperatures are predicted in the 80s. The way the stadium is set up, they flipped sidelines when Matt got back there, so the sun will be beating on us. So we got a lot of things that we're up against.
Just want to ask about Bo Masco, and I know last year it took him a while to be able to get on the field and be able to play for you, but what have you seen from him, coach's son, and just kind of the maturity that he has?
Yeah, Bo's a football player, right? He's not our prototype size corner, but he plays bigger than he is. He's long and he plays bigger than he is, which is the only reason we took him, because he is a football player. He's tough, he competes, fearless. So I think he's got a chance to be a good one. You just got to keep developing. Again, I'll say it again, like, this league, you need to improve every week, and I don't mean like smidges. You need to make big improvement every week. Otherwise, you get into the middle and the back of the season. You're just not good enough to win, because everybody else in this league, it's really well coached league. I was talking to a guy today. He said, "Man, there's no rest in that league, right? Every team is well coached. Every team's talented." I said, "Yeah, that's why I love it. That's why we wanted to be in the Big Ten. It's where we belong." And I've said it before. It's that perfect intersection of elite football and elite academics. And I'll close with that. Our kids now are a few weeks into the semester, a month into the semester, and that's really where college football, I know they're getting paid and all this stuff with NIL and all that. They're still college students, and they have a lot to do, and now it's starting to pile up on them. Papers, tests are beginning. So it's all those things as a coach you need to be aware of and make sure your guys are handling that well. So it's, as you get into this Big Ten season, it's a challenge. But like I said, one that we love being a part of. Thanks, guys.
Yes. So, the thought process is, obviously you can't wholesale change in the middle of a season. Guys know the vocabulary, and there are a lot of things that we do conceptually that, give us a chance. Didn't want to wholesale change. There are things that I feel like we could add to help, and concepts that we already have that need to be called a little more. And I didn't want to disrupt the flow of like the position coaches having coaching in their position and adding more to their plate. And so through evaluation and a lot of conversations, with everyone involved in the building, felt like the guy that gives us the best chance to operate efficiently and that has poise, and maturity and a good outlook on what we're trying to look like as a team on game days, is Jason Simmons. So collectively we'll put together the game plan. I'll help a little more in that room, just to add another set of eyes and some insight. Different guys are responsible for different areas of the game plan, but on game day, Jason Simmons will call the plays.
Where will Jason be during games? And if it's in the box, who will be his eyes on the field? If he's downstairs, who will be his eyes in the sky?
I think operationally will be the same. Like, he's been in the box up to this point, so I think he'll be comfortable up there. And then we'll operate like we have been in terms of communication and signaling or huddling.
Why make the change now?
Obviously it was not easy. I got a lot of respect for Graham, and I appreciate what he has poured into this program up to this point. Love him and his family dearly. It was obviously not an easy conversation. But this is a business. It has nothing to do with anything personal. I wish him and his family nothing but the best. And I think Graham's a great coach. It just for whatever reason it just wasn't working here. And the decision to do it now is for a couple of reasons. One, I believe that we have a better team than we have been showing the last 3 weeks. And so there's a lot of football still to be played. We've played a quarter of the games. And I feel like if I didn't do anything right now, it would be kind of like waving a white flag on the season. And nobody in that building is ready to do that. And so if a change was going to be made in December, I just didn't feel like it would be fair to draw that out for everyone involved. And so after careful consideration and a lot of thought process and a lot of evaluation. I felt like it was best for the program and best for our team to give us a chance to go be who I believe we have the potential to be. Was to make a very tough decision right now.
What will you do after the season, Ryan? Is Jason going to be the guy in 25? Or are you going to have a national search? How will you handle it after the season?
I mean, I'll get there when we get there. You know, right now we're focused on trying to put the best plan, offense, defense, special teams together to go win a ball game against a team that this program hasn't beaten in a long time.
Ryan, can you go into more specifics about just what you felt like this offense wasn't doing that it should have been doing? Like when you imagine what this offense would look like 4 games in, what isn't it doing that it's supposed to be doing besides just the larger scoring points?
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously, you know, you want to be able to sustain drives and put points on the board. You know, I think Hudson Card is a talented quarterback, and he hasn't looked like himself. You know, just we're not as explosive as I think we can be. You know, I think we're doing a good job running the football, but you know, it's been hard to find easy throws and getting people in advantageous situations depending on coverage and the shell defensively that's being presented pre-snap. And we haven't played complementary football, and so that's why, you know, I made the decision that I made.
Who's overseeing quarterback room now?
You know, we have Stan Keene is the quarterback analyst, and you know, I'll be more involved just to oversee, you know, what's being taught, what's being, you know, how we're practicing, so I can make sure that the communication is you know, being spoken the same, you know, throughout the offense.
Obviously, as the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, Graham would have had a relationship with someone like Marcos and also the quarterbacks you're bringing in. What sort of conversations have you had with those people so far to reassure them of where things are going to be in the future?
Yeah, you know, I've started with the quarterbacks already in the room. You know, they trust, you know, what I've done up to this point. You know, I've been very open and honest and transparent with all those guys, and you know, they. Again, like it's human nature to feel bad for like Graham. Like everybody loved Graham in the building, still do, and so. But they also are excited about the direction moving forward, and are excited to go out and compete. You know, the remaining 3 quarters of the season.
You mentioned before that maybe you'll be more involved now. How much have you been involved? Excuse me, week to week with giving some oversight to the offense and how's that going to change? Yeah,
I mean, you know, I've made suggestions and interjected where I saw fit. You know, so now though, like obviously I'll be more, you know, more involved, more in there during the game plan process. You know, I don't want to get in the way, and I don't want to speak on things that I don't know. But you know, I do feel like having eyes from a defensive perspective can sort of give insight or generate discussion on, you know, how best to attack certain coverages, how best to attack certain leverages, you know, how to get guys' eyes in the wrong spot, you know, things like that give defenses problems.
Obviously, Jason doesn't come from extensive background of calling or coming up with a game plan at the college level. Extensive high school experience, like very successful. Is there something about now that you've had both jobs that like that head coach mentality, was that something you considered here, and what ways can it be beneficial for him, I suppose? Yeah, you know, I think the thing I've been most impressed with Jason just in the time he's been here is his presence, his confidence. He's sort of got like a calm confidence to him, and his ability to relate to and hold 18 to 22-year-olds accountable. You know, our team respects him. You know, had conversations with some of the guys on offense and let them know,
what direction I was going in terms of the play calling, and all were excited that it was him. There's a lot of successful OCs in the college ranks right now that started as high school OCs. I think the fact that he has not only led a side of the ball but led an entire team, it was definitely attractive to me in terms of what our team needs right now. I got a lot of confidence in him. I got a lot of trust in him, and I think he's going to do a great job.
When you use the term complementary football, what's your definition of that, and how does that apply to what you want offensively?
The definition of so offense and defense, working together to try to win a ball game. And so, if it's a long drive that the defense has been on the field for, it's probably not the wisest thing to go fast the next drive, right? It's, taking advantage of momentum swings and being, strategically aggressive on offense and strategically aggressive on defense, depending on what's going on either side of the ball throughout the course of the game. And knowing that, what the plan is going into the game. And so, I thought we did a slightly better job of that last week. Just weren't able to take advantage of some of the opportunities that were being presented.
Is it kind of your view you can pass the ball and possess the ball at the same time? Those
Absolutely.
two things don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's hard to do so when you can't find easy completions. It gets difficult. And like I said, to be strategic about when to take shots and when not to, and how to scheme up what you're seeing week to week, and having new wrinkles and things that you haven't shown, and just to set up plays that complement each other as well. Those are all things that I envision an offense looking like moving forward.
Is there any option to pursue to bring in somebody in season just as like an extra set of eyes, or just kind of somebody to just help?
Yeah, we had a lot of people reach out that are sort of out of it right now. A lot of big name, big resume. I think it's hard to bring in somebody new in the middle of a season that doesn't know the roster, that doesn't know the vocab or the system. Again, you can't wholesale change in the middle of the year. And so, I've vetted a couple people, and if I feel like we need to bring somebody in, then that's the decision I'll make. But if I feel like it's best for the program and best for our success to rely on who's in the building, then that's what I'll do as well. I'll make the decision I feel like is best and gives us the best chance to win.
Brian, back in before spring ball, when you made the decision to bring Jason over here from Miami, what did you like about him then that you felt fit this group?
Just the things like I've talked about earlier. One, I liked the fact that he had been a head coach, albeit the high school ranks, had been an offensive coordinator, albeit the high school ranks, and the success he had, his familiarity with this area, and his passion for the game of football, and just the way he carries himself and his ability to reach people.
We talked about this last year, but it's been a long time since Purdue beat Wisconsin. I'm sure you know about the fumble game when game day was here 20 years ago. How much can this maybe be a benefit when you switch things up and you get some maybe new mojo, at least on the offensive side of the ball, in the middle of a year?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see on Saturday, right? I am hopeful, and I expect there to be some just excitement, just because it's something new. I definitely think we need a kickstart on that side of the ball, and really just enjoy.